Alright, bet. Our Twitch. Okay, our Twitch should be up. Hold on, let me test the audio real quick. Hello. Hold on, let me test the audio. Alright, so audio is good. Alright. What is up, Twitch? What is up, YouTube? Today we're gonna be reacting to financial content. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get into it. All right, let's get into it. All right, hold on, I gotta make sure my junk switched. All right, bet. All right, today we're gonna be watching the day trader who found a free money glitch. Free money glitch. Let's hop into it.
May 6th, 2010. The U.S. stock market drops 5% in just 4 minutes. Trillions vanish. For a moment, nobody knows if the entire system is about to collapse.
400 very quickly, and then down 800, nearly 1,000 in a heartbeat.
I mean, it is classic capitulation.
Commodities that are being crushed.
There may have been a bad print in Procter & Gamble.
Investigators scramble for answers. Wall Street blames a glitch. High-frequency firms point fingers at each other. But when the data was dissected, the truth was stranger than anyone imagined. The crash wasn't triggered by a bank or a hedge fund. It was traced back to one man, sitting alone in his...
So wait, this is 2010. So there was a 2008 stock market crash, I believe. So this is after, like, I want to say, wasn't there another crash? I'm pretty sure there were like 3 crashes. Well, like 2 official ones that happened because of the market, or just because of the economy. But I'm pretty sure other than this event, I know about 2, which is like the 2008, and then I don't know about the other one.
On his bedroom in Hounslow, London. A trader armed with nothing more than a mouse, a ladder, and a custom code he built to fight the machines. And from that day forward, the hunt for him began.
Okay.
Punjab, India. A young couple decides to leave while they still can. Work is irregular. Money stretches and then runs out. They want a place where effort has a clearer result, so they pack what fits and go. West London, early 80s. They buy a small house in Hounslow because it's the only one they can afford. It sits under the flight path. Planes pass low, shifts stack up. The mortgage gets paid. The rule at home is simple. Keep moving, keep improving. Their son is Navinder, Nav. He grows up in a house that runs on schedules. School on time. Chores done. Receipts saved. He is quiet, direct, good with numbers. He repeats tasks until they make sense. If something breaks his focus, he removes it. That habit...
I don't know. I mean, like, isn't that kind of weird for your son to just be doing that? Doesn't that just, like, raise, like, a lot of red flags?
becomes the center of how he works. At school, he learns to sit with the hard problems until they move. Games were practice for him. Same opponents, same choices, small adjustments that win the next round. He learns that progress comes from tracking what repeats and acting on it. By 2001, he is accepted into Brunel University, where he chooses computer science and mathematics. He moves into shared student housing to cut costs. Among his roommates, one detail catches his attention. A friend always has cash to spare. Curious, Navinder asks how. The friend explains he used his student loan to open up a brokerage account, trading tech stocks during the...
That's pretty... He used his student loan to open up a brokerage account. Hey, it's risky, but it's smart. It's risky, but it's smart.
Boom years. To Navinder, this is shocking. Making money from a computer instead of working long hours at a shop or a supermarket seems almost unreal. That night, he starts reading everything he can about trading. Online forums, books, market charts.
This is where it starts from, chat. This is where it starts from. The story of all traders. this the story of a majority of traders. Yo, I just met this guy, and he made a risk.
He absorbs it
God.
obsessively. The same obsessive focus that once had him playing FIFA for hours, climbing into the top 200 players worldwide, now shifts entirely to trading. In FIFA, he studied how opponents played, memorizing their habits and counters. In markets, he begins applying the same logic, searching for repeated behaviors, waiting for openings. He opens his first small account using his own money. His early trades are clumsy. Losses pile up, but he treats them as tuition. By the
Fail, 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 win. Fail, fail, win. Fail, fail, win. And then now I'm just winning. Win, 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 win.
time he finishes university, he is no longer just a curious student. He is convinced this is the only path he wants to pursue. April 30th, 2003. Navinder is back home in Hounslow after university, living in his old bedroom. He takes odd jobs to contribute to household expenses, telesales at a company called Dialaphone, then an admin role at Bank of America. But the work feels pointless. He still wants to trade. One evening, a newspaper ad catches his eye. Wanted, futures traders, must work well under pressure. The ad leads him to Independent Derivative Traders, or IDT.
Hold on. I have to say something. Alright, bet. The one thing I really love about trading is that, like, bro, when I was working, or like when I'm working, I know, bro, the stock market's open right now. I'm making money. I'm making or losing money. And then, like, it always occurs to me, like, yo, I'm making money while I'm working, and, like, it's not even my work money. It's my own money that's working for me. And I always love that fucking concept. Like, yeah, open up my phone. Oh, shit, my portfolio's up like 1,000, man. Oh, my God. All right, back to the video. Waiting for my... All right, there we go.
Later, Futex, a small London futures trading arcade. Applicants face a ruthless selection process. The first round is rapid-fire mental math and pattern recognition. Many are eliminated instantly. Navinder passes. Next comes hypothetical trade scenarios. Candidates are asked to react to sudden price moves, justify their reasoning, and defend it under pressure.
Yo, wherever this company is, that is holy shit. Like, that is like good, like, trading. Like, well, I mean, like, trading training, because, like, it teaches you how to react when the market changes quickly, how to respond quickly under pressure and stuff like that. That is actually really good, like, good training that people can take away from this video. Like, that is like some real shit that you really have to learn, especially if you work in a brokerage firm or if you trade for high clients or whatever the case may be.
In 2003, only a handful survive. Among them is Navinder. Inside the office, he enters a world unlike any corporate bank. Rows of desks, each with screens flashing order books and charts. Market news blares constantly from loudspeakers. The Rossi brothers, Paolo and Marco, run the firm with trader Dan Goldberg. Paolo, the founder, drives a Ferrari, tells war stories from the pit trading days, and pushes new recruits to believe they're...
Oh, yeah. Back in my day, you know, during these pit train days, it was hell. It was a war zone. Went through like 3 recessions.
Gambling for high stakes. Navinder is assigned to train on the S&P 500 E-mini futures, the world's most liquid contract. His method is simple. Sit at the ladder, click in and out of trades, and repeat for hours. The environment is intense. Dozens of young men, all chasing quick profits, shouting across the room as they take positions. But Navinder withdraws into silence. Colleagues describe him as absent-minded, sometimes starting his trading day with his bike helmet still on. He rarely joins the group at the pub. He doesn't care for Paolo's charisma. He is there.
And then guess what? That's the fucking type of dude that ends up, like, doing some crazy shit. That's the type of dude that ends up doing some crazy shit.
There for one purpose, to master the ladder. Navinder develops his own style. He scalps, entering and exiting positions rapidly, sometimes dozens of times per session. Unlike most, he refuses to use stop losses. He calls it letting trades breathe. Riskier, but it fits his temperament. If a losing trade rebounds, he recovers the position. If it doesn't, he absorbs the loss and moves on. By focusing only on the E-mini, he starts recognizing patterns. Even in anonymous digital markets, traders leave.
That is true. When you do a stop loss, it is giving a trade more room. Because like when I started out trading, which was like 4-5 years ago, I was just like doing like penny trading, like penny stocks, and like I gained, I want to say that like over that course of that time of me doing those penny stocks, like I gained a significant amount of like real market experience. And then also like the profit rise, even though I was like putting in like low amounts, I was still gaining profit. And then as I went to bigger stocks and more money, it like I realized that like like certain trades can just make or break that moment.
Fingerprints, recurring order sizes, sequences of plays. He studies them relentlessly, just as he once studied opponents in FIFA. But tension builds with management. Marco Rossi, who oversees risk allocation, limits the size each trader can control. Whenever Navinder posts strong returns, he storms into Marco's office demanding more capital and bigger limits. Arguments spill onto the trading floor.
I hate that. That's a thing where like they'll like limit how much like money or like how much like you can trade, and like you know what I mean. I fucking hate that, because then like that just, because like if you're like already surpassing that amount, like that's just like a bottleneck for you. That's just like limiting like how much profit you can grow, but it's also increasing the risk. So like I understand why firms do it, but that shit pisses me off. Like if a motherfucker's winning, let him keep on winning.
And shouting in front of everyone. The only reason Navinder isn't fired is simple. He backs up his arrogance with results. Futex, as the firm rebrands in 2005, thrives and recruits more traders. For Navinder, it is the perfect environment to sharpen his edge, but underneath, his frustration grows. He feels constrained, certain that if he had more freedom, he could dominate the markets on his own terms. By 2007, Navinder's skills have matured. His account, once small and fragile, now holds several £100,000. Years of scalping the E-mini have hardened his instincts.
Is this in the UK? Because like they keep showing images of what looks to be New York or New Jersey. I don't know. Yeah, because they said pounds, so I'm assuming it's the UK.
Still, he feels restless. He wants more than survival. He wants to dominate. That year, he notices something unusual in the DAX, Germany's leading stock index. During late sessions, when most markets are falling, the DAX often creeps upward. Large buy orders appear on the ladder, only to vanish when hit, then reappear again. Navinder has never seen behavior like this. He turns to his colleague and friend at Futex, Young, who specializes in the DAX. Even Young is surprised. Together, they track the movement for days. The orders never seem to relent. Then, one morning, the pattern breaks. The DAX opens far lower. Whoever had been buying gave up overnight. Navinder and Young devise a simple strategy. Short the DAX in the evening, hold overnight, and cover in the morning. It works. For 2 weeks, they repeat the trade, each time pocketing profits. But while Young keeps pressing intraday and gives back much of his gains, Navinder stays disciplined. He doubles down only when the setup is clear. His balance quickly grows. By January 2008, Navinder's account crosses £1 million. Just
W. £1 million. We like that. But like also what I wanted to say was like when trading, you can't get greedy. Like you can't get greedy, because if you get greedy, it just clouds your fucking judgment. It completely fucking just clouds what's up there.
Days later, news breaks. The mystery buyer had been Jérôme Kerviel, a 31-year-old Société Générale trader who secretly placed massive, unauthorized bets on the DAX. When the scandal is exposed, the bank loses $7.2 billion. Markets sink further. Navinder's short strategy pays off again. The timing could not have been more volatile. The global financial crisis is unfolding. Lehman Brothers collapses. Liquidity evaporates. The E-mini, once moving in steady ticks, now swings violently by several percent in a single day. For many traders, it's chaos. For Navinder, it's opportunity. On November 25, 2008, the U.S. Federal Reserve announces a massive rescue package, $600 billion in purchases of mortgage-backed securities. Markets spike. Most traders hesitate, fearing another collapse. Navinder does the opposite. He doubles down, buying aggressively. As the U.S. session closes, his broker calls in a panic. Navinder is near his margin limit and hasn't placed a stop. He brushes it off. "Look at the charts," he replies, and hangs up. The next day, the markets surge again. His position explodes in value. By the time he closes out, Navinder has made an estimated $15 million on this single trade. From that moment, he believes he is no longer just a scalper. He has beaten the system at its most chaotic moment. In his mind, he's ready for a bigger fight. Not just against other traders, but against the machines now reshaping the markets. 2 years later, in 2009, the markets are changing. Navinder notices it every day on the ladder. Orders appear and vanish in microseconds. Fills are faster than any human can react. His edge, watching patterns, exploiting repeated behaviors, is slipping away. The opponents are no longer traders sitting at desks. They are algorithms. Firms like Getco, Jump Trading, and Citadel deploy automated systems capable of thousands of trades per second.
Jesus Christ. Like, and then, like, I don't think people realize, like, trading used to be, like, a lot more slower, but as technology more progressed over time, it, like, now it's just bots doing it. Now it's just bots or algorithms that do it.
Exchanges, eager for volume, reward them with discounted fees. The playing field is tilting, and Navinder feels pushed aside. Frustrated, he decides to fight back. Instead of trying to beat the algos at speed, he imagines disrupting their signals. If they react to the order book, what if he could manipulate what they see? In June 2009, he emails his broker with a detailed request for custom software. The subject line, Matrix. The specifications are precise. A cancel if close function, so orders disappear the instant another price approaches. The ability to layer orders at multiple prices with one click.
Can you do that? Like, I know that there are custom, like, trading softwares out there, but, like, you can, like, request one from someone and, like, they can make that shit. Like, how does that work? I'm so confused because, like, I know that there are custom trading softwares, but, like, you can, like, just go to someone and, like, request that. That's weird.
An adjustment. If someone moves their order, his would move too, always staying one step ahead. The option to control position size, pulling orders automatically if the visible volume drops. This was not about speed. It was about control. He hires an engineer, Antonio Hedrugialis, to build the tool. After a series of meetings in London, Antonio delivers the first version. The cancel if close function works. The back of the book layering is harder, but progress is made. Navinder begins testing it. He places large orders away from the market, constantly moving them so they appear real but never execute. To outsiders, it looks like heavy supply or demand is waiting. In reality, the orders vanish before they can be filled. Regulators notice. In March 2009, the CME sends him a warning. Other traders are reporting suspicious activity. His orders keep disappearing. Navinder replies bluntly.
And they don't
Sorry,
like that.
I was just showing a friend of mine what high-frequency firms do almost 24 hours a day. Does this mean you're cracking down on them, too? The next day, he switches the program back on. From then on, his trading routine changes. He spends long nights in his parents' house in Hounslow, alone in his bedroom, operating a tool few others even understand. He tells no one about the profits, not his friends, not his family. It is the birth of a new strategy, one that
We like that. We like that. If you ever somehow become a millionaire, win the lottery or whatever the case may be, tell no one. No one must know. No one must know. Not your best friend, not your mom, not your dad. I don't give a goddamn. No one. We like that. Just stay silent and then like just slowly transition into being rich. No one has to know. One day, or like a couple of weeks later, or a month or a year later, they'll just see you with a Lamborghini, and you'll be like, "Oh, a guy just gave it to me for free," or like just make up some story. No one needs to know that you're rich, because like when more people know, it comes with more problems. Information spreads, and we don't like that. We don't like that. Just
push him into direct conflict with the global financial system. On May 6, 2010, Navinder sits at his desk in Hounslow. It is afternoon in London, morning in Chicago. The E-mini S&P 500 futures, the world's most traded equity contract, are unusually volatile. Navinder prepares his program. At 3:20 London time, 10:20 a.m. in Chicago, he activates the cancel if close function. On the screen, 6 massive sell orders appear, totaling more than $200 million in nominal value. They sit just above the best offer, constantly refreshing as the market moves. To anyone watching the order book, it looks like heavy selling pressure is waiting to strike. The orders are never meant to fill. Each time the price approaches, the program cancels them and replaces them a tick higher. In one 6-minute window, the system modifies or cancels 604 orders.
is that it right there? Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like that looks like people buying in, or like they're requesting more buys, and then like people selling. Like, I just can't tell by like the text that I'm looking at. I can't tell if like that's what it is. Like, I'm low-key kind of confused right now.
Navinder barely
like,
touches
just
the mouse.
how that looks.
The tool does the work for him. For more than 2 hours, he keeps the program running. It feeds the illusion of overwhelming supply into an already fragile market. Other algorithms react, pulling liquidity. Depth thins. Every small order now has an exaggerated effect. At 2:41 p.m. New York time, the pressure snaps. The E-mini collapses. In just 4 minutes, the market drops 5%, the steepest fall in modern history. Trading halts. For 5 minutes, silence. Then, just as quickly, prices rebound. By the end of the session, trillions in value have been erased and recovered on paper. Around the world, investors are stunned. Navinder closes his day with profits of roughly $435,000. Some accounts put it closer to $879,000. To him, it's just another successful session. He shuts down the program and leaves his desk. The headlines the next morning don't mention him. They blame high-frequency trading, a glitch, or a large institutional sell order.
Hey, guess what? They probably don't even know. It's just some dude in his basement, man. Just some dude in his basement with some custom software, and he's kicking their asses right now.
Navinder's role remains hidden, but in the data, his fingerprints are clear. Regulators will spend the next 5 years dissecting every millisecond, tracing the collapse back to one bedroom in Hounslow. In the months after the flash crash, Navinder keeps trading. He doesn't slow down. If anything, he leans harder into his strategy. By 2011, he refines his program further. More functions are added. Automatic layering, one-click placement across multiple price levels.
Okay, I have to know, is this like, because like it in the beginning, like it said that like he went to someone and he requested this software, but can he just like add things on here? Is this just like what, him coding this shit together? It like because like I want to know, is this like just something I could just be like, hey, all right, I want this custom software to be made? Because like trading, if I were to describe it, trading is like war, and then whatever tools you have, it can give you a better competitive edge against other traders, and especially with other traders. And then you're also dealing with fucking organizations with their own custom trading softwares, bots, AI, and all this stuff. So if you can, that just Loki just gave me an idea, but if you can like make your own custom software, and then like it's more understandable, and you understand every piece of that software and how to use it, that the level of a basic trader, or like a basic pro trader, or someone who's been trading for years, will go even more higher. And like that's why I'm like, yo, he's kicking ass right now, just adding shit.
Built-in position controls. But Navinder is not fighting only the market. He is fighting perception as well. Among other traders, he has a reputation. Online, he posts on forums under the name That's Fugazi, with the Joker avatar. He mocks traditional chart patterns, ridiculing techniques like Elliott waves or Gann theory. To him, they are useless. He insists the only truth is in the order book, and he alone has mastered it. At Futex, his attitude had already made him difficult. He challenged managers, cursed at colleagues, demanded higher limits. Now, on his own, there is no restraint. He trades only for himself, from his parents' home in Hounslow. His routine is relentless. Long nights staring at the ladder, occasional breaks for food or Football Manager on his phone, then back to the screen. The profits are extraordinary. Millions accumulate across his accounts, yet he tells no one. He lives like nothing has changed, cycling around the neighborhood, carrying the same old backpack. But his frustration with the system...
That's what I'm talking about. No one knows. This guy's just a fucking millionaire. No one knows. No one knows.
He sees the rise of high-frequency trading firms, GetGo, Jump, Citadel, firms backed by billions, operating servers inches away from exchange data centers, securing fee discounts that human traders will never get. To him, the game is rigged. The rich have rewritten the rules. He begins speaking more openly about it. In conversations and online, he compares the markets to a rigged machine, run by elites and shielded by regulators. In his eyes, he isn't cheating, he's fighting back. For years, regulators review data, but they focus on institutional sellers and technical glitches. Navinder slips under the radar. Still, the complaints about disappearing orders continue, and his activities are flagged multiple times. He ignores the warnings. From the outside, he looks...
I wonder, is this like illegal? Because like, well, I mean, like, I know orders can be canceled, obviously, right? It's like, it's a part of the game. When you buy, if your order is not filled like within a certain time, you can cancel it. So I'm like, just because he keeps on getting flagged, he's doing the same thing that the institutions are doing. Just because, oh, it's one trader, it's a problem. But when it's like an institution, no one cares. Doesn't like I don't get that. That makes no goddamn sense.
like a small independent trader. In reality, he is a one-man operation moving hundreds of millions in visible orders. His enemies are not other scalpers anymore. They are the world's largest trading firms and the regulators who quietly begin to close in. 2012, Navinder is a millionaire many times over. His trading tool works exactly as he wants, and his accounts show steady growth. But success brings a new problem: money management. He has millions in profits, but no clear plan to protect them. That is when a new figure enters his life, a man known to him as Mr. Jesus. His real name is Jesus Alejandro Garcia Alvarez, a Spanish money manager with connections to offshore firms. He approaches Navinder with a promise: safe.
We like that. If you get big to the point where like shit like this starts happening, might as well get like 2 or 3 offshore banks, Singapore, Sweden. Just saying. If you ever get that big, you might want to get a couple offshore banks. Just saying.
Investments, 30% annual returns, and ways to shield his money from taxes. To Navinder, who distrusts banks and regulators, it sounds perfect. He agrees. Over time, he channels tens of millions through offshore accounts managed by Jesus. On paper, the numbers look strong. Jesus sends regular updates, showing profits and growth. He even pitches opportunities in new gaming companies, telling Navinder he is part of something bigger. But the reality is different. Behind the scenes, Jesus is running a pyramid scheme. Old investors are paid off with new investor money. The accounts are smoke and mirrors. The investments don't exist. For Navinder, the trap isn't obvious. He's focused on trading. Day after day, he sits at the screens, clicking in and out of the ladder, assuming his fortune is compounding offshore. In truth, the wealth he believes he has built is already evaporating. By the time regulators finally close in on him, most of the money will be gone, drained into a fraud he never saw coming. Years later.
Oh, no. That pisses me off. So the fucking guy scammed him? That's why you gotta be careful who you lend your money to. Yeah. So that basically means all the fucking work that he did gone. That shit low-key pisses me off, but like I'm low-key sad about it too, cause like, come on, bro. Come on.
November 2014, regulators have reconstructed the events of the flash crash. Millisecond by millisecond, they trace the order book. One name keeps appearing, Navinder Singh Sarao. His program has been layering thousands of contracts, refreshing and canceling at abnormal rates. For years, he has escaped notice, blending into the noise of global markets. But now, the picture is clear. A single retail-style trader in Hounslow had been moving visible orders worth hundreds of millions. On April 21st, 2015, the knock comes. In a joint operation, US and UK authorities arrest Navinder at his parents' house. The headlines erupt. Flash crash trader. Reporters swarm outside the modest home in Hounslow, filming the man accused of causing chaos in world markets. The time.
I mean, like, but I don't get it. I don't see the problem with this. I mean, I kind of understand, right? But you have to take into consideration, he was just using his own tools, just as the same as the institutions did. So then, like, if a big institution did this, would like the feds just like let him get away with it? Cause and then like even if they didn't, they would still probably just get a slap on the wrist. Like, I don't see the problem in this.
Is brutal. Navinder turns to his offshore accounts for bail money, only to discover the truth about Mr. Jesus. The fortune he believed was secure has vanished. The pyramid scheme collapses.
No, bro, no, bro, come on, no, bro. All right, I'm not liking this Jesus guy, bro. I swear I am not liking this fucking Jesus guy, bro. No.
Leaving nothing to recover. The weight is crushing. Facing extradition to the United States, multi-million-dollar penalties, and the collapse of his life's work, Navinder's mental state deteriorates. In prison, his...
Yeah, shit. I wouldn't be surprised if bro killed himself. He lost all of his money, all of that work that he did over the decades and years. Some fucking scammer jackass. That's why I'm like the rule is true. Like you literally can't tell anyone you have fucking money. I mean, if I were him, I would have given him, like, depending on how rich I am, I would have given him a certain amount of money, see what he does with it, and then be like, hey, yo, can I see my offshore accounts? Like, let me see the agencies and, like, the banks, and let me see everything, lay it all out, and then and then, like, I would have this guy under contract. I'm like, bro, What is like I mean, I can't blame him, because like if any other average person or like anybody else who was in that situation, they would probably maybe have done the same thing, because UK, different country, you know what I mean? So I'm like, still pisses me off though, bro.
Autism and isolation push him to breaking point. When his cellmate attempts suicide, Navinder holds him up for minutes, screaming for guards until help arrives. The moment scars him. Meanwhile, prosecutors push for the maximum. They paint him as the architect of market manipulation, a man who brought Wall Street to its knees. Traders online push back. Some
That's what I'm saying. I don't see anything wrong with this. All he did was fucking use his own algorithm. I don't see the problem here.
rally under hashtag #FreeNav, calling him a scapegoat, pointing to academic studies that say his impact was marginal compared to massive institutional trades.
You know what it is? I think they're trying to fucking use this guy as a martyr. That's what it is. That's what it has to be. Because if you think about it, if they don't go after him, they're gonna have to go after the institutions.
Is trapped between two realities. To regulators, he is a criminal who manipulated the system. To fellow traders, he is a legend, the scalper who fought the machines and paid the price. The legal battle stretches for years. In 2016, Navinder reaches a settlement with the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission. The order is devastating. Over $38 million in penalties, restitution, and disgorgement. The criminal case drags on. Prosecutors press for prison. Defense lawyers present a different picture. A socially isolated man with autism, obsessively focused on numbers, who spent years clicking a mouse in his bedroom, not a Wall Street kingpin. In January 2020, the court delivered its judgment. Against all expectations, Navinder avoids prison. The judge...
W-Mats. W-Mats. That's what I like to see. W-Mats.
Cites his autism diagnosis, his cooperation with investigators, and the collapse of his finances. Instead, he receives time served, probation, and restrictions on future trading. By then, his reputation has already split in two. In the financial press, he is branded the flash crash trader, the man blamed for the sharpest collapse in modern markets. Among day traders, he is seen differently, a retail outsider who dared to fight against billion-dollar firms and their algorithms. Academic research later shows his...
Actually, you know what I think he should have done? If he started his own company and organization and operation, hired people, and then did it undercovers and wraps, and then spaced it out and carefully thought about it and strategized it more, then they would be going after a corporation. They wouldn't be directly going after him, because if it's just one fucking guy, of course they're gonna try to slam you with everything they got. But when you're a corporation, it's a different story. They're just going after the corporation, because it could be anybody in the corporation. You see what I'm saying? It couldn't be the guy at the top, or maybe it's his second guy. They don't know.
Effect on May 6, 2010 was real but limited. At most, his spoofing contributed to a fraction of the total drop. The larger forces were institutional sell programs and the collapse of market liquidity. Still, Navinder became the name history remembered. Before sentencing, he spoke briefly in court. His words were simple. "I spent 36 years trying to find happiness on a path built on a lie. I did things society said would give you happiness, and when they didn't, I didn't know where to look." May 6, 2010 remains etched in financial history. A day when markets fell off a cliff and rebounded in minutes. A day when trillions in value briefly vanished.
W video. That is a W video. That is a really good fucking video. But it's honestly just W video. It's honestly sad though. But yeah, on W video, we're gonna hop on to the next video. Let's see what we got. Hold on, there we go. All right, let's see what we got. All right. Bet. All right, okay. All right. What it do, YouTube? What it do, Twitch? We gonna be watching this reaction to financial videos today. You know, we gonna be watching how to flip cars, full process. Let's hop into it.
What is going on today, everybody? It's Buddy, and in this video I'm going to show you guys how I took this neglected, beat up Lexus with a whole
Damn. Ooh, whoever had that car, god damn, that shit's bad.
lot of engine problems and turned it into thousands of dollars of profit. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Buddy and I buy and sell cars full time, and I'm about to show you guys my whole process and how I make money flipping cars, from how much money I knew I should buy this Lexus for, how much I knew I could sell it for, how much money I had to put into it, and ultimately how much money I made. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So I was relaxing on my Monday night when my phone dinged with the notification from the Swoop app alerting me of a new potential deal on Marketplace. It was a 2008 Lexus ES350 with only 116,000 miles for only $3,000. Now,
yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. The way that car looked, it had to be from Facebook Marketplace. Damn, 3,000 for that car. I guess that's not bad if you can drive at least.
I know these Lexuses sell pretty fast since they're pretty much just a luxury Toyota. Now, from experience, this car should be priced probably around the $6,000 mark, so I knew there was something up with it since it was only priced at $3,000. So let's check it out. I clicked on the ad to go through the pictures and see what was up with this thing. The exterior pictures looked good. It didn't look like it had any noticeable damage on it, so the low price wasn't due to this thing being in like a fresh accident or anything, so that's good news. So there was only really two poorly taken pictures of the exterior. There wasn't a lot to go off of. Now, the same with the interior. Everything looked to be in decent shape, no noticeable rips or tears in the seats, but again, these pictures were
That's from the picture perspective. In order to see if a car's interior is good, you gotta like actually go in, touch the chair, touch the leather, and actually look at it.
really poorly taken on a cheap phone. The angles didn't really show anything. You can't really tell exactly the condition of the interior or exterior from these pictures, but it didn't look like it was noticeably messed up. So let's check out the description and see what the story with this car was and see why it was so cheap. Now, a description stated, drives great, but has a small coolant leak. Don't drive it anymore. So let's break down that description a little bit. The first thing is it drives great, but has a small coolant leak. Now, a coolant leak can be something super easy to fix, like a bad radiator hose clamp or something, or as bad as a whole blown head gasket. But apparently it drives great, so besides the coolant leak, I guess this thing still runs and drives alright. Now, the other part of the descriptions is don't drive it anymore. Now, this is actually a really good thing you want to see on the description. Anything like,
I mean, yeah, that is good, but like it all depends on how long he's been having that shit just sit there.
this sort tells me that the seller has a new car and this thing is just taking up space in his driveway. So that means he's definitely negotiable and he's definitely willing to get rid of this thing because it's not even his daily driver anymore. So I'm definitely interested in seeing this car in person. So I sent the seller a message. I didn't want to waste a bunch of time asking a bunch of questions on this particular car since it was only a few miles away. Now, the further a car is away, I usually do hammer them with a little more questions just so I don't completely waste my time. But since it was so close, it's not going to be a waste of time just driving up the road anyways. So we figured out a time that would work for the both of us, and later that evening I set out to see the car in person. Now, while we're on the way to see the car in person, I want to talk about two things in particular. One is a very important one, and that's how to inspect a used car before you buy it. Now, I have a 3-part series on how to inspect a used car, and there's about an hour of content between those videos. This is me going over everything you need to know from the interior to the exterior to check the engine bay, all that good stuff. And the second thing, there's always something that you need to bring with you before you go look at a used car, and that is an OBD reader. I have an Amazon link to 3 different OBD readers at different price points in the description that I personally use and recommend. Now, I've been buying and selling cars for years, and I think probably the most important thing for getting profitable flips is to get to the ads first. It's guaranteed that any car on Marketplace underpriced by a few $1,000s will be pending in literally minutes. So a tool I personally use for car dealers and pro flippers is an app called Swoopa. It also shows you the estimated value of the car in the feed, so you can see at a glance if the price is a good deal, a bad deal, or even a steal. So they now have new AI filters that let you set your bot to only show underpriced cars and block obvious bad deals to save you a ton of time. You can use their AI valuation tool to quickly check if a deal is worth it. It breaks down any issues and shows a potential profit margin. It even gives you strategy tips too. Now, once you've set up your bot, Swoopa does the rest for you, searching Facebook Marketplace.
Yo, if they did the same thing with house flipping, oh my god.
Offer up Craigslist, and you can filter results by mileage, year, make, model, or just use the AI price filter and only see underpriced cars with a healthy profit margin. Swoopa will continuously search Marketplace every minute and ping you with an alert when a deal is underpriced, and then you can message the seller first before the other 50 flippers in your areas hit them up. So you can either scroll on Marketplace all day or get notified instantly with the Swoopa app. It costs money to use, but it's easily worth it, and you'll make that investment back tenfold. This app's not just for cars, it works for iPhones, couches, camera gear, pretty much anything you can flip and make a side hustle or business out of. This is
oh my god, this is the method. You wait, hold on, hold on. This is the method. Yo, if it's not like I thought it was just only for cars, but if you can but if you can use it for other stuff, oh my god.
Now, the best company I've ever promoted. It's built by flippers for flippers. There's a link in the description, so go get the free trial and check it out. So after only a few minutes of driving, we finally arrived here at the seller's house. Now, finally seeing the car in person, I was actually really happy with the condition of the paint. There was no bad fading on the paint. There was no dents or noticeable deep scratches. There was really nothing on the exterior of this car that stuck out like a sore thumb. The only thing that needed to be addressed was these super yellowed headlights. That was definitely making this car look older than it was. Now, taking a look at the interior, it was a completely different story. As soon as I opened the door, I noticed all the flaws everywhere. And the first thing that stuck out is this center console lid was super worn down. The leather was all ripped up. And if we pan here to the left, you can see that this AC vent here in the center was all cracked up and missing pieces were everywhere. So that was definitely a couple things that needed to be fixed. Now, also here on the steering wheel, the buttons were all faded and peeling. Now, I'm starting to think that the person who owned this car, or maybe the previous owner, was someone who picked at things. You can see this center console lid. It looked like they was just like picked over and over with their thumbnail, and there was a small crater here right in the button, and I think they did the same here with their steering wheel buttons, so that's probably why they look like this. Now, another thing I found here in the interior was that this seat here in the back had a really nice rip in it. If you watched the last car flipping episode, you'd see that the other Lexus that I just flipped had the same issue with all these perforated leather panels ripping super easily. It is a super common issue in these older Lexuses. Now, also, it was pretty dirty. There was some staining on the floorboards as well as some floor mat staining. The steering wheel had some like white paint caked in on it. It was pretty dirty all around, but not as bad as some of the cars I've done here on this series before, and I'm pretty sure I can get this interior looking perfect by the time I'm done with it. So now that we're done inspecting the interior and exterior, it's time to check up on the mechanical issues and see what's really going on with this thing. So the very first thing that I noticed when I opened the hood is that the hood just falls right down right away. Now, with these shocks on both sides, it's supposed to stay up. There's no hood latch on this thing. It's just supposed to stay up, but these shocks are completely shot out. Now, another thing I noticed here when starting the car is this terrible squealing noise. I knew right away this noise was definitely a belt issue. When I turned the car off to check the condition of the belt, I could see how worn down this belt was. You can see it's almost like a whitish color. If I zoom in here, a belt should be like a pitch black rubber color, almost like a tire. It didn't look like that at all. You can see it was super old and raggedy, and that's why it was squealing.
No maintenance at all. No maintenance. Oh my god.
Leaking like this every time I turn the car on. Now, I definitely noticed there was a small coolant leak when it was running. It was not too bad. I wasn't too concerned about getting this thing home with this small leak. It was only a few minutes away from my house. Now, I couldn't really tell what the leak was. I don't think it's coming from any of the radiator hoses, but maybe the bottom of the radiator. But I don't think it would be too big of a deal if I get this car for the right price. So obviously at this point, the right price is what I needed to make the deal on this Lexus. Now, obviously, after all these things we've seen on the car, it's going to take a good bit of effort to make this thing worthy of the $6,000 book value. And at $3,000, it honestly seemed like a fair price, but of course, I'm not going to pay asking price. I told the seller I got $1,800 cash in my...
Okay, so this is like him just like fucking like like he's looking over it right now. Okay, got you.
Pocket, I'm ready to take your problem and make it mine. He countered at $2,800 and he said it was a great deal for me. So I explained that the coolant leak could be a pain to find. It might not even make it home with the belt squeaking. I might have to pay a couple $100s on a tow truck, and I'm not really lying at this point. I'm hoping that it makes it home, but we'll see. And this belt could snap at any minute, so it was really a gamble for me to even try and drive this thing home. I told him to meet in the middle at $2,400. I pulled the cash out of my pocket and I started counting. Now he did hesitate for a second, but then he ended up shaking my hand.
Yep. That's what we like to see. We know he was gonna fold. He wanted it gone.
And the car was officially mine. We made the deal happen at $2,400. I think it was a pretty fair deal for both of us. So now it's time to get this Lexus back to my house, and we're gonna get it ready to fixed up and ready for its new owner. Now, while we're on the way back to the house, I wanted to mention the topic of negotiation. Now, I have 17 other car flipping videos in this series of car flipping, and each of them touch a little bit on negotiation. If you watch them all, you should really know exactly what they do, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. So lucky, just barely making this thing in my driveway. Now I turned off the car right away to avoid damaging the engine, because if a car overheats too much, you can completely destroy the engine, and that was definitely a close one. So now with the car safely home, it's time to start fixing it up and getting it ready for its new home. Now you guys know how I like to do it. I made a complete checklist.
So replacing the hood shocks, replacing the belt, overheating, restore headlights, AC vent, steering wheel buttons, interior recouplers, leather dye detail. Okay.
Is for everything this car needs. So let's start here with the first thing, and let's fix up those old hood shocks so we can actually get this hood propped up, because we're going to be doing a little bit of engine work on this car. So replacing the hood shocks on a car or truck is actually pretty easy. So the first thing that I have to do is find something to hold the hood open while I do this. Now I found an old broomstick that I had laying around in my garage, and this actually worked out great. It was the perfect size. Now to remove the old shocks, you need to pull out this little metal retaining clip. Now I usually use a pick to get behind this little metal piece, and you just yank it back, and once that clip is pulled back, you simply just remove it. Now with the old ones removed, all you need to do is snap the new ones in place, and the new ones snap in.
I'm just gonna say, no glazing. W tap, bro. W tap.
And you don't have to pull anything, they just push on in, and you can see the hood stays completely open by itself without the broomstick. Now we can go ahead and we can cross off replacing the hood shocks off the list and move on. But before we move on, I want to start a money invested chart so we can keep track of how much money we have invested in this project. Now we have $2,400 for the price of the car and $25 for the hood shocks, so let's move on to getting that belt changed. Now I can always add more coolant and drive it for about 10 minutes or so, but if I even want to move this thing from one part of my driveway to the other, it's going to be pushing it with this belt, because this thing seems like it's ready to snap off. So we're going to dress the belt first. The first thing to do was pop the old belt off. Now how you do that is you loosen up the tensioner on this belt with the belt tensioner wrench. Now since the belt was on the side of the engine instead of the front of the engine, it's such a tight squeeze. So what we had to do in order to get room to work on it is we had to remove the front passenger side wheel, and we had to get to the engine from that side. Now once it's all loosened,
My bad if I'm like staying silent. I'm just so interested. I'm just so interested in this.
up, you can pull the old belt off. I had my friend help me out since this was such a pain to do by myself. Now once I got the old belt off, I noticed something that explained a whole lot here about this car. Now if you look here, these are all pulleys, and this pulley here was super loose and had a lot of play in it. And it just so happens this pulley is the water pump, and the water pump obviously holds the coolant, and the bearings are really shot out in this pulley, so that definitely explains here the coolant leak. So a simple dry belt job is now going to turn into a complete water pump replacement. And as you can see, the engineers at Lexus did not give us a lot of space to work here on this side of the engine. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to make some room so I can work on these engines. So the first thing I got to do here is remove the top motor mount here, and that was just a few bolts that held it in place. And once those bolts were gone, this thing just lifted right off. So now it was time to slide the jack under the engine to brace it, because now we got to remove the lower motor mount as well. And once I removed it, you can see here that I can move the engine around by jacking it up and down to create enough space to work on what I need to get to. So I jacked it up to the point that I had enough room to get to the water pump. Now with the engine jacked up and I have a lot more room to see, you can really now see how bad this pulley was. It was super loose. This thing was to have absolutely no play to it, and this was 100% the reason for the coolant leak. So we're going to start here by removing all the hose clamps and radiator hoses, and these hose clamps can be a pain, and this is actually probably one of the most frustrating parts of this entire job. Now, with all the room we have to work here, we can start by removing this bracket that attaches to the motor mount. Now, after I took the bolts off that held that in place, we started to work here on the thermostat housing that was right under there. Now, with that out of the way, I finally got enough room to unbolt all the bolts that held the water pump in place. And after a lot of wrenching, I was finally able to pull the water pump out completely. Now, you can see here we got a new one ready to rock and install, and this is what it looks like on the inside of a water pump. You can see when the pulley is turned by the dry belt, it spins this impeller that circulates all the coolant through the engine to keep the engine at operating temperature. So that's just a quick background how a water pump works. So now it's time to slide the new water pump in place and install all the bolts that hold it together, and then reassemble everything all back together. So now it's time to finally put that new belt in place, and you can really see here what I was talking about earlier, how the new belt is compared to this old worn down belt. This thing is dried out, ready to snap any second. So me and my friend were able to put the new belt back in place, and all that's left is to fill it up with coolant. And what I'm using here is distilled water, since antifreeze is not really needed in Florida, since it never really gets under 40 degrees here at all. So now what I'm using
Yeah, you know, he's right. I'm from Florida. It's rare. It's rare. It's rare. I'll tell you
to
that.
refill this coolant system is a radiator fill funnel. What this does is make sure it gets all the fluid throughout the entirety of the engine and make sure there's no air left in the engine, because that can create hot spots and damage your engine. So now that we have absolutely no leaks, we have no squeaky belt, this thing is in perfect mechanical shape, we can go ahead and we cross off fixing the squeaking belt off the list, as well as fixing the coolant leaks, since we just did them both at the same time. And now all the mechanical issues are fixed up in this car, and now we can start addressing the cosmetic issues. But first, let's jump back to the money invested chart. Now, we have $20 for the price of the new belt, since it was pretty inexpensive, and we have $85 for the price of the water pump. Now, I also gave my friend $100 because we spent the afternoon together and he helped me out putting this new belt and water pump on, so we're going to add that $100 on as well. So now we're going to start here with the only flaw on the exterior, and that was to get those headlights restored. Now, lucky for you,
for those headlights, oh my god, I like when they like use the buffer and like they put on the, I don't know what it is, it's like this treatment that they put on there, and like they buff it in and it just comes out so clear.
guys, I have this entire long form video on how to professionally restore your headlights with the exact method that I use for every single car I flip. So what you see me doing here is the last step, and that is the final polish. I'm also using a buffing wheel drill attachment that will explain all how this stuff works in the long form video I have on my channel. And after I did that, you can see the before and after.
Oh my god, boy, it's always nice to see a nice brand new light.
Between these two headlights, it is a night and day difference. And once I did both headlights, you can really see how much of a difference it's made. It helps with visibility at night, and it also makes the car just look so much nicer. So let's go ahead and cross off restoring the headlights off the list and move on to the interior. And that needed a whole lot of love. So let's start with this busted AC vent. So I tried to pull it out in one piece, but it just kind of kept crumbling apart. So eventually I got a nice enough grip to just snap it out of place. Now there was just one little electrical connector that controlled the security light. And from there, I ordered a new one on Amazon. It only cost $19. Now it was super easy to reinstall it. All I had to do was plug in the one little wiring harness, and it fit perfectly, and it color matched great. So let's go ahead and cross off replacing the AC vent off the list and move on to those busted steering wheel buttons. So the first thing I had to do was remove the airbag. So on one side of the steering wheel, there was a small plastic cover that needed to be removed. Now once it was removed, there was a small bolt that needed to be loosened as well. I repeated the process on both sides by removing the cover and unbolting the screws. Now with both sides loosened, I was able to just remove this airbag and push it out of the way. I didn't need to unplug anything. All I did was just prop it up on the steering wheel. Now with the airbag out of the way, I took my screwdriver, and there was just one screw holding the button module in place. Now after the screw was off, there was just a small clip I was able to push with the side of my finger and fully remove the module. Now that the module was removed, there was 3 screws here on the back of that module that had to loosen up, and once those 3 screws were all released, I was able to pull out the faded button.
So he can just like replace the plastic. Yeah, cause I think like that's just cooked. Yeah, I think that plastic is just cooked.
Button cover off, and I was able to put the new one in place. All I had to do was screw back down those 3 screws and then snap it back in place. Now obviously I repeated the process here on the other side, and then I put the airbag back in place. I secured it back down with those 2 screws on both sides, and now you guys can see how much better this steering wheel looks. It only took me about 30 minutes, and it was a really easy job, and it looks so much.
What gets me is that how does it get to that color? like 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 compared to the new ones, right? They're light gray, and then like the other one is like dark blue. Is that just like different colors, or like, hold on, see, like,
And now you guys can see how much better this steering wheel looks. It only took
yeah, like, look at that. Is that just like tear and wear? Like, how does it get to that point?
me about 30 minutes, and it was a really easy job, and it looks so much better now. So we can go ahead and we can cross off fixing the steering wheel buttons off the list and move on to the next thing, and that was to get all these ripped up seats reupholstered. But real quick, let's jump back to our money invested chart, because we got to add a few things. Now, it cost $19 for the price of that new AC vent, and it was $15 for the price of these new button covers, so really not bad at all, and a huge difference in the interior. So now getting back to getting this car reupholstered. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the rear seats. Now, rear seats on almost every single car are really easy to remove. There's just tension clips that hold them in place. So I just had to get a nice grip here on the bottom and just pull them on up. Now the next thing I needed to remove was that center console lid. It was fairly easy. All I had to do was
is he just going to replace the whole thing? That's what I'm so confused about. Is he just gonna like place the whole thing? Is it like cheap?
prop it open, and from there I was able to compress these two slides off the track, and as you can see now, it let it fully open from there. Now once it was fully open, there was 4 screws holding it in place, and once those screws were removed, you can really see that this thing just comes right off now. Now when I was removing these 4 screws, I had my knee on the driver's seat, and it was just my luck that my knee caught the driver's seat to get a nice big tear in it. Now like I said earlier, the leather on these perforated Lexus cars are just terrible. You can just see how easily this stuff tears from just my knee resting on it. So it was time to remove the driver's seat as well, since we got to get this thing fixed up anyways, because we're already going to the upholstery shop. So there's 4 bolts that held down this seat in place, 2 in the front and 2 in the back, and after they were removed, I unplugged the electrical connectors from under the seat, and I was able to remove the seat entirely from there. Now with everything
I am so confused, because is he replacing all of the leather in the car, or is he just replacing or trying to restore it? Or is he going to clean it? I'm just what the
removed,
hell?
I loaded it all in the back of the SUV. I took it up to the upholstery shop, and after a few days, I picked it up, and $275 later, all 3 pieces were fixed up, color matched perfectly. I'm kind of glad the driver's seat ripped up when it did, because if it ripped up a couple days later, I would have sucked, because I would have to go all the way back to the upholstery shop, but it happened to do it on the day I was going to the upholstery shop, so no big deal. We can go ahead and we can cross off.
Okay, so they have shops that just restore leather on because how would that work? Would they take off the whole thing, or would they just take off a piece and or do some crazy shit and put it all back together? Because I would figure they would have to take off the whole thing. 200 and I mean, if they replace the whole thing, that's a really affordable price.
The interior reupholstered, we can move on to the next step, and that was to get the leather dye out and get this leather looking beautiful again. So you can see here these seats were pretty beat up and had some good wear in them. So one thing I use to restore leather seats is leather dye. Now I get my leather dye by a company called seatdoctors.com. They use your VIN number and they get the exact color match of your factory interior. That way you can make sure that you're not dyeing with a completely different color and everything looks nice and seamless. So the first thing that we're going to do is make sure the surface is clean. So let's start here by soaking this leather in a cleaning solution, and next what we're going to do is scrub the cleaning solution into leather with a soft bristle scrub brush to really work out all that dirt. And after we scrubbed, we're going to wipe away all the dirt that we worked out with a clean microfiber cloth. Now once the seat is clean, it's time to let it dry. Now I'm going to speed up the process with a hair dryer to really make sure this leather is dry. Now we got our leather dye all shaken up and ready to use. We're going to dump a generous amount on a fresh microfiber cloth and start working the stuff into the leather. And after the seat is completely covered with the leather dye, I'm going to take the hair dryer again and dry the
I need to know, how many times does he apply this? What, until it's clearly more better or visible?
leather dye completely, and then go ahead and hit it with a second coat. And once the second coat is dry, I'm going to do the same thing here with a third coat, hitting it with the hair dryer in between coats. And once everything is nice and dry, you can really see how awesome this leather is looking. It went from worn down and raggedy looking to pretty much looking like a brand new seat. Okay. Now I repeated the process on all the seats, and I got this leather in this car looking absolutely awesome again. So we can go ahead and we can cross off restoring the leather and move on to the next step on the list. Now is to give this thing an entire detail before we put these freshly restored leather seats in the car. But first, let's jump back to the money invested chart and add a few things. We have $275 for the upholstery job, and we have $50 for the price of the leather dye. So now back to this detail. So anytime I detail a car, I like to remove all the seats. And since the front driver's seat was already removed from being at the upholstery shop, all I had to do was remove the passenger seat. Now with all the seats removed, you can see how much easier it is to get in there and deep clean all these carpets. But first off, we gotta vacuum all these carpets up. So we're going to start here with a vacuum, and we're going to thoroughly get all this dirt and random stuff that's deeply embedded in this carpet up. Now I take about 15 minutes alone just to vacuum. I want to make sure I don't get my carpet cleaner all clogged up with this stuff. And after we're all vacuum up, I take some cleaner and my little handheld pump sprayer, and I soak the entire carpet with a generous amount of cleaner while really focusing on those stain portions. I let it soak for about 5 minutes, and after the 5 minutes is up,
what I like about this is that he's like fully restoring it, or at least like within his budget, because like you have to think about it, like he can't go over the budget that he has because he also needs to make profit. So I like that.
I use a drill brush attachment to really work in the cleaner all deep into the fabric of this carpet. You can do this by hand with a regular brush, but the drill attachment really speeds up the process and it works out those stains really well. And once it's all worked in, I finished the job here with my carpet cleaner. This thing sprays clean water in and it sucks all the dirt and yucky stuff out. It leaves the car smelling brand new, it leaves it with a fresh car smell, and it takes out all those real stubborn stains. Now, I also repeated the exact process here on the floor mats to make sure they look as beautiful as possible before they go back in. Now once everything was all clean, it was time to reinstall the seats and get the center console lid reinstalled. And
that is nice. I'm not even gonna lie with you, that is nice, because like I don't know if like this is like his main thing, but if it is, he could low-key do detailing and probably make like a ton of money doing detailing also, because like that interior looks nice as hell.
That was finished. All I had to do was give this thing a thorough wipe down because the dash and the cup holder were still super dirty. So I took my time, I scrubbed out all the dust and dried up gunk, and I also scrubbed the white stuff that was caked in here on the steering wheel. Now I also touched up the inside door handle with some leather dye, and I got it cleaned up. You can see
God damn, that shit look ugh.
See, it was really worn down. It was almost kind of like a brown blackish color from being so worn in, and this leather dye made it look beautiful again. So once everything was said and done, the seats were back inside. The interior of this car was looking absolutely amazing, all cleaned up, super nice, smells like a brand new car. The interior is looking as beautiful as the exterior. You can really see how far this thing has came compared to when we first got it. It looks absolutely awesome. So now that we got this thing looking great both inside and out and free of all mechanical issues, we are finally officially ready to post this thing and make some money. So at this point, I snapped some really nice pictures of this car, and after I was done, you can really see how clean this thing looks on the inside and out. So the Blue Book value started anywhere between $5,800 and $7,300. So I wanted to start out at the higher end at $7,250, and I posted it at that price and waited to see what happened. So I had a few people interested, a bunch of tire kickers, but I had this one guy who lowballed me hard at only $5,000. Now,
oh my god. Oh shit. I was talking about the guy. Oh my god. I always think that bro, there's always this guy. Like there's always this guy who's just gonna you might sell it to me for $3,000. God damn.
I didn't say yes or no. I just said we're close. Even though he was pretty far away from what I wanted to get out of this car, I told him to come check it out anyways. He ended up really liking the car, and he offered me $5,000 after the test drive. Now, I knew he was going to do that, so what I did is I showed him the book value. I said, yo, if there's nothing wrong with the car, honestly, I don't see why you wouldn't pay at least what the car is worth. He said he was looking for a deal, and I agreed. Obviously, a deal is what everybody wants, but this car is worth at least $6,600, bro, at the absolute minimum. I said, I'll take $300 $300 off that price, even though I know it's worth every penny of $6,600. I'll let you win and you can get it for $6,300. He agreed. It was a super fair deal. He really wanted the $5,000 mark, but he did agree that the car was...
Hell no, buddy. You're not cheapskating me. You are not cheapskating me. God damn. After all that work, a measly $5K. Are you serious right now, bro? Are you serious?
all there. It was super clean. He shook my hand at $6,300 and we finally made the deal. Now, the moral of the story is lowballers can still be buyers, so don't try and talk too much about numbers over Messenger. Just try to get them on the test drive and negotiate from there after they already started falling in love with the car. So now that we got the car...
He's right. He's right. He pulled some dealership action. They got you feeling the rims, and they got you. They just got you in that car, and all you know is next. You signing the paper, financing, goddamn paying $1,000 out of pocket a month.
It's time to go back to the money invested chart, and we're going to add everything up. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the last few things up, and we're going to add $80 here for my friend helping me out in the detail, as well as another $100 for miscellaneous things I may be forgetting, like gas, detailing products, and random things that I may not remember. So let's add all this up together, and that brings us to a grand total of $3,169 in this project. We're just going to call it $3,170, and with a sale price of $6,300, that leaves us with a total profit margin of $3,130 in straight profit. Good. That is not bad at all. So let's do a little more math to find out the hourly rate. So it took about 15 minutes to replace the hood shocks. Between fixing the squeaky belt and diagnosing the water pump and replacing it, it took about 4 hours, let's say. Restoring the headlights only took about an hour. Replacing the broken AC vent was about another 15 minutes. Replacing the steering wheel buttons took...
Hold on. I like that. I like how he like shows up, like puts like how many hours of work that he did into the car, and then showed like how much profit he made in return. Because like he can be like, all I did was do a day's worth of work, and I did like off of this one car, and I got 3K profit.
An hour,
like
another hour to remove the upholstery and take it to the shop, another 2 hours to clean and leather dye all the interior upholstery, and about 4 hours between me and my friend to strip and detail the interior. And we'll add another 5 hours of miscellaneous things like drive time, part shopping, inspecting the car, and miscellaneous things like that. So if we add all these things up, it comes out to a grand total amount of labor invested of 18.5 hours. So we're going to take the $3,130 of profit, we're going to divide that by 18.5 hours of labor, and that comes out to a grand total of $169 an hour. That is a huge win in my book and another successful flip here on the channel. Now, if you guys know, I do all my own repairs, filming, editing, and everything in between all myself, and I would greatly appreciate if you guys support the channel by...
Jesus, damn. WVid though. But like, that's crazy though. That is crazy how he like just he does it all. But what gets me is that if he had a team or someone helping him, and like they like negotiated the price out decently and then scaled it more, it would be more profitable channel wise, or just doing a detailing business or doing a car flipping business. But at the same time, you have to be careful on who you pick, especially nowadays. I'm gonna go use the bathroom. Count me down like 30 seconds. I'll be back, and then we're gonna hop into the next video. back. I'm back. Type action. I am back. Let's see. Hold on. Hey, what's up? What's the video? I literally just got back from the bathroom. How you doing? Let's see. What's the video about? Actually, I used to. I mean, I would still want to hop into playing GTA, but I used to. I'm probably not gonna be able to do it today, but on my next react, I can totally. Cause like I do like 2 react streams like every week. Let's see. But let's see though. What do we got? Alright, bet. Let's flip. Alright, bet. Let's hop into it. Alright, we are watching how Warren Buffett turned $1,000 into $165 billion.
Generated 20% annual returns in his company Berkshire Hathaway since 1965. No one else even comes close, and the more you study him, the more you realize just how irreplicable his success really is. But how did the Oracle of Omaha do it? What were the decisions he made, strategies he used, and investments he bought that ultimately snowballed $1,000 into more than $160 billion?
That's crazy. And hold on, before we continue, didn't Warren Buffett start like later in his years? I think like he really started like investing like I think in his 20s or 30s, was it?
Buffett's money-making odyssey began surprisingly early in life. Born in 1930 in Omaha, Nebraska, young Warren had an insatiable appetite for business. One of his early inspirations was a library book he discovered at age 7, 1,000 Ways to Make $1,000. Soon, little Warren was selling chewing gum and Coca-Cola door to door, earning pennies per pack. But it was...
Oh my god, yo, the classic, how to make money as a kid method.
Age 11 that Buffett took his first step into the stock market. I know, age 11. He had saved up $114.75, and with that money he bought 3 shares of Citi Service Preferred stock at $38 per share. Almost immediately though, he got a crash course in stock volatility. The price tanked to about $27.
Oh my god. That would hurt me. That would hurt me.
Testing the young investor's nerves, but luckily Warren held on until it rebounded to $40, where he sold, pocketing a small profit, but a very big lesson, because no sooner than he sold the shares, Citi Service stock shot up to over 200.
Oh my god, no. Oh my god. Oh my god,
dollars
bro.
a share, teaching Buffett how costly impatience can be. But he wasn't too fussed. In his own words, "I'd become a capitalist and it felt good." Buffett's entrepreneurial spirit continued through high school, buying a used pinball machine with a friend for $25 and installing it at a local barbershop. As the quarters started rolling in, they expanded to 3 machines in different locations, and at age 16, Buffett and his buddy sold that business for $1,200. Warren's cut from the pinball.
What year is this? Because 1,200, depending on what year it is, that can actually be a lot in today's money.
profits plus his other side hustles helped him finally clear that $1,000 milestone. In fact, by age 15, thanks to his multiple paper routes in Washington, D.C., where his family moved, Buffett had saved about $2,000, which is equivalent to over $35,000 today.
Wait. Hold on, my bad. I just missed that. Say that again.
Where his family moved, Buffett had saved about $2,000, which is equivalent to over $35,000.
That is someone's annual salary right there. That is someone's annual work pay right there. In a year.
$1,000 today. At 14, Buffett took $1,200 of his hard-earned cash and did what every young teenager would, naturally buying 40 acres of farmland in Nebraska, partnering with a local farmer who worked the land. Ever the capitalist, Buffett had amassed $9,800 in savings, roughly 180 grand in today's dollars.
Yo, this is pissing me off, yo. This is low-key pissing me off. Because being born back then compared to being born now, I think this is like these are the perfect years where like, hold on. Switch. Let's do the switch. Yeah, so like being born now in like I want to say 2025 is like the perfect blend of both worlds. Like, because if you become a millionaire now or a billionaire now, you can experience and get to enjoy all the new technology. Because like when Warren Buffett was rich, they didn't have like fucking all the shit that we got now. Like, just imagine if he became rich in this time and era. You know the things that Warren Buffett would be doing. Yeah, I mean, obviously he would be the CEO of his company and all that stuff. But like, if he was younger, oh my god.
By the time he finished college.
Oh shit. Hold on. Gotta switch.
Buffett's first $1,000, and indeed his first $10,000, came from sheer hustle and an uncanny knack for spotting profitable business opportunities. But by his early 20s, he needed a more scalable method to multiply his money. In 1950, he read Ben Graham's seminal book, The Intelligent Investor, which had such a profound impact on him. He enrolled in...
I have that book. Actually, yeah. I have that book. I have the newer... revision version.
Columbia Business School just to learn under Graham directly. Graham's philosophy was value investing, but a very different style to what we know today. Buffett described Graham's approach as cigar butt investing, buying shares in beaten down businesses that might be nearly spent, but it's so cheap that even a little improvement or liquidation could give investors one last profitable path. After earning his master's under Graham, Buffett went to work for his mentor's investment firm, Graham Newman Corp., where he got valuable hands-on experience in deep value investing, enough to return to Omaha in 1956 and at 25 years old, start his own investment partnership. He rounded up roughly $105,000 from a handful of partners, his sister, his aunt, his father-in-law, and close friends, but he only put in $100 of his own money.
Who family members just got money like that? Yo. And he only put $100 worth of his money in there. So he's basically trading on margin. But except with other people's money.
Turns out, he didn't need to chuck in any of his own cash, as even the incredibly fair fee structure, that being zero management fees, zero fees on the first 6% annually, and then 25% of the gains over that hurdle, would still generate plenty of cash for Buffett that would ultimately take his net worth from thousands to millions. With his partner's capital, Buffett went treasure hunting in the stock market's bargain bin. His strategy in those years was pure Graham-style cigar butt investing, and oh boy did it work. Over the years, the Buffett partnership achieved a...
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Just like, yeah. Dow Jones didn't do shit. That's, yeah, wow.
Jaw-dropping compounded annual return of 25.9%, turning heads in the investment world. What kind of stocks was he buying though? Often tiny, unloved companies whose shares were ridiculously cheap relative to their assets or earnings. For example, one of Buffett's early legendary plays was Sanborn Map Company. Sanborn Map was a declining business. They made maps for insurance companies, but crucially, it held a valuable portfolio of cash and investments on its balance sheet. Buffett realized Sanborn stock was trading at about $45 per share, while the value of its cash and investment portfolio alone was worth $65 per share. So in essence, Wall Street was pricing Sanborn like a dying map maker and completely ignoring that it had a massive pile of securities in its vault. Seeing a classic dollar for 50 cents scenario, Buffett's partnership bought up as many Sanborn shares as possible, eventually owning 43% of the company. Then Buffett went full activist. He got on Sanborn's board and pushed management to unlock that value. After some wrangling, he convinced them to repurchase stock from shareholders at $65 per share, extracting the value of those investments. The result, a 44% gain for Buffett's partnership and a successful last puff from that cigar butt. Buffett's big
W. That's why on, I believe, if it's JP Morgan News, or I forgot what it's called, Grinder right now it's an app, right? I've been invested in it for a while, but they're considering going private and they're negotiating right now a stock buyback price. So if you know about that, or like if you want to be put on something, Grinder. I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there. But no, but like when like low key when a company's consider doing that, that's like an easy bag. That's like an easy, oh my god, I can make profit bag moment.
Win of the 1960s, however, hinted at a future shift in his style. In 1964, American Express was rocked by the infamous Salad Oil scandal. A subsidiary had lost millions on fraudulent collateral, tanks of water passed off as soybean oil, and Amex's stock plummeted as investors.
Oh, that's foul. The company was supposed to have 150 million vegetable oil as collateral, but the only inventories were 6 million. After discovery of the share price, American Express fell by more than 50%. Damn. Inventories.
Feared the company would be on the hook for the damages, but Buffett looked past the panic. He saw that Americans were still using their green charge cards in restaurants and shops.
Yep, and they're still using them today.
You know, the core franchise of Amex, its brand and its trust, was still intact. So while others fled, Buffett pounced, eventually putting 40% of his partnership's capital into Amex stock. It was a bold, concentrated bet, not unlike his cigar butts in spirit, but very much a quality business at heart. Sure enough, Amex survived and thrived, and within a few years, the stock multiplied, netting Buffett's partnership a hefty profit. This was a hint of Buffett's evolution. He was willing to...
Also, Amex. I just bought some recently. I bought one share because I wanted to test it out. I use Amex. I have an Amex Gold card. Made $30 profit, like over the course of like 2 days. All I did was just buy one share to test it out. But if I did buy more, I would have made a lot more profit. And then that's what I love about investing, bro. I love that feeling. Oh yeah, I use this company. I'll buy into it, make profit, close my profit order. And actually, I think it's up more than from my last time I checked that I bought it from. Because when I sold, I want to say a couple hours later, it like tanked under that price, and I would have probably been down like, I think, $2.
More for a great business facing temporary troubles. By 1962, Buffett's partnerships had grown so much that Warren's personal share of the fund made him a millionaire for the first time. Specifically, the partnership's assets were over $7 million and Buffett's cut exceeded $1 million. At 32 years old, he had turned that initial $100 and investor capital into a 7-figure personal fortune. And it was at this time he began looking for bigger plays, the kinds of investments that could move the needle for a now multi-million-dollar fund. One such play came in 1962. Buffett noticed a New England textile company, Berkshire Hathaway, selling at a deep discount to its assets. True to form, he started buying shares as a classic value.
Oh, I would. What? They make paper? Oh, I definitely would. I'm buying half of the company.
But
You know
this
what? I'll just buy
investment
the
would
whole
end up
company.
changing Buffett's life in ways he didn't expect, and not entirely for the better, at least initially. After then CEO Seabury Stanton tried to rip Buffett off on a share buyback promise, Buffett turned on the offensive, buying enough stock to control the company. Then
I'm buying the whole company. Oh my god, he bought the whole company. I literally just said that. If I'm Warren Buffett, I'm just buying the whole company.
firing Mr. Stanton in anger. This is one of the few times in his career that Buffett's emotions actually got the better of him, and he paid for it too, because he was now the chairman and CEO of a failing textile business. At this point of his life, the late 60s, Buffett had a problem that very few of us will ever experience. Too much money to manage, relatively speaking, and too few cigar butts to buy. Bargains had become harder to find after a long bull market, and in 1969, feeling the market was overvalued and good deals were scarce, Buffett took the drastic step of closing his partnership and paying out his partners. He often quips that in 1970 he gave up his lucrative career to become a full-time chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, a position that he still holds. But truthfully, this was a turning point. Buffett was about to shift from being a micro-cap stock picker to the architect of a vast conglomerate. By 1970, Buffett had already made millions, but the next leg of his journey required a new approach. And this is where Charlie Munger enters our story in a big way. Charlie Munger...
God damn it, I can't with those glasses. I'm just, god damn those, not like his glasses. His glasses are fine, it's the lens. It's where, like, how they make your eyes look like fucking goddamn huge. I'm like, chill with that.
Smart-minded investor and Buffett's longtime friend, had been chatting with Warren since the late 1950s, but by the 1970s he became Buffett's key partner in strategy. Charlie had one overriding message for Warren: no more cigar butts, it's time to buy great businesses. Munger believed that some businesses were worth paying up for a long-term advantage, essentially saying it's better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than a fair company at a wonderful price. It was this change in strategy that would serve as the single biggest turning point in Warren Buffett's investment career. After taking over the failing textile manufacturer in Berkshire Hathaway, Buffett quickly realized he needed to diversify away from textiles in order to save
The evolution. Because, like, low-key, if that other guy didn't come in, he would probably be stuck there, or like stuck in that position for a while. Because sometimes instead of like just trying to make a quick buck, the best investment are the ones that you just have to put that work in just a little bit, or you have to just be willing to pay that extra price if it means you can get more out long term.
company. Berkshire Hathaway then became Warren's new investment vehicle, and after his purchase of National Indemnity back in 1967, it was in 1972 that Buffett had the opportunity to buy See's Candies, an investment opportunity that would really put Buffett's new strategy to the test. See's, a famous West Coast chocolate maker, was a great business, a beloved brand with devoted customers and the ability to raise prices a little bit every year, what we now call pricing power. But according to the old Buffett playbook, See's looked expensive. The seller wanted $30 million for a company with only $8 million in net tangible assets and about $2 million in annual profit. That was way above the kind of asset bargain Buffett was used to. He was hesitant. $30 million for a regional candy company? It sounded like too much. Munger, however, was adamant. He and Buffett's colleague at Blue Chip Stamps argued that See's brand moat was so strong it warranted the premium. This was a test. Could Warren break out of the Ben Graham mindset and trust the power of a quality franchise? Buffett did negotiate hard. He refused to go above $25 million, even at the risk of losing the deal. The seller luckily caved and accepted $25 million, a decision that would make Berkshire Hathaway billions in the long run. In Buffett's words, "I almost blew the See's purchase. Fortunately, the seller caved. Otherwise, I would have balked, and that $2 billion would have gone to somebody else." Indeed, over the decades since, See's Candies has delivered more than $2 billion in pre-tax profits to Berkshire, an investment return of over 8,000% from the initial $25 million. Sears taught Buffett and Munger firsthand that a great business can be worth far more than its raw assets. It solidified their shift to focusing on businesses with durable competitive advantages, aka moats. As Buffett later described, Sears was their prototype of the dream business, one with an enduring brand, loyal customers, low capital needs, and the ability to churn out cash. Buffett didn't abandon.
That's like a perfect business. It's low maintenance, it's passive, but you're also still guaranteed to have an inflow of customers. And then like the more improvements you make to companies like that, the profits only get better and better and better until it just reaches a point where like you've completely maxed it out, and now you're just making money. Some years you're making money, some years you're just down a little bit on your quarters. So sometimes it just really all depends on the year, the market, where the businesses are placed. Kind of like how McDonald's, they've completely maxed out their franchise. Like they're everywhere now. Majority of places where you go, there's a McDonald's there. And then like to the point where like if they're down one year, it doesn't really matter.
Value discipline. He still cared about price, but after Sears, he was willing to pay up for quality. And this opened the door to some of Berkshire's most famous investments in the 1970s and 1980s. For example, in 1973, during a market downturn, Buffett scooped up a large stake in the Washington Post for about $10 million. The Washington Post was a media powerhouse that was temporarily undervalued in a bear market. Buffett trusted the strength of its franchise, and that $10 million stake would eventually grow to be worth over $1 billion by the 1990s. Another example, Geico. In 1976, Geico hit hard times and was verging on insolvency. Buffett knew Geico inside and out, and he was convinced of its core business, direct-to-consumer auto insurance, and its moat of low costs. So
now Geico is like, what, multi-million-dollar company with their goddamn, their ad. You want insurance? And then like it's like the gecko or fucking lizard or whatever it is.
He poured money in to help recapitalize Geico, eventually making it a big holding. Geico, as we know, survived and
the goddamn lizard. That's what I'm talking about. The goddamn lizard, bro.
went on to thrive, becoming a cornerstone of Berkshire Hathaway's current success. This was classic Buffett, be greedy when others are fearful, but now with an emphasis on companies that could dominate once the panic passed. All these moves were setting Buffett up for an extraordinary run in the 1980s. Berkshire Hathaway by now was a compounding machine, taking profits from insurance and businesses like Sears and snowballing them into new investments. One of the biggest snowballs started rolling in 1988. Buffett made what was then his largest stock investment ever, the Coca-Cola Company.
I'm gonna need some Coke with that drink. Make sure just up the dosage a little bit. All right, that stuff is addicting.
In the late 80s, Coca-Cola had stumbled after the 1987 market crash, even though its business, selling sugary drinks the world loves, was still as solid as ever. Buffett had a long-time love affair with Coca-Cola. Cherry Coke is his drink of choice, and he recognized Coke as the type of unbeatable brand that comes along maybe once in a century. He began buying Coca-Cola stock in 1988, ultimately spending over $1 billion to acquire 6.2% of the company. That was a bold move. $1 billion was a huge portion of Berkshire's portfolio at the time, making Coke its single largest holding. But Buffett saw Coke's global moat, its brand, distribution, and addictive product. He was betting that Coke would keep growing worldwide and keep raising its dividend. And he was right. Within just a few years, the value of Berkshire's Coke stake tripled. By the end of 1989, Berkshire owned 23.35 million Coke shares worth about $1.8 billion. And
Jesus. And it's probably even higher now. Like, you're guaranteed to see a Coke wherever you go. Guaranteed. It's just like McDonald's.
Fast forward to today, Berkshire still holds every share of Coca-Cola. That $1 billion investment is now worth over $25 billion. And get this, Buffett's annual dividends from Coke are roughly $700 million.
Damn, wait, hold on. He has like how many shares from Apple? Hold on. Visa. Goddamn. Kroger's. Wow. Chevron. Yeah. Okay. Bank of America. Damn. Most shares in Apple. Well, that makes sense. Because didn't Warren Buffett like have like this crazy at first, like this whole thing with like not believing in technology or like not believing in investing in technology, and then I think something happened and he had a talk with Steve Jobs, and then like he bought like a fuck ton of Apple. I'm pretty sure.
$1 billion investment is now worth over $25 billion. And get this, Buffett's annual dividends from Coke are roughly $700 million, which means every year Coke pays him more than half what he initially paid to buy the stock.
Damn.
It's one of the greatest examples of long-term compounding in Buffett's career. But more importantly, it underscored his evolved approach, finding an outstanding business with a wide moat, buying as much as he can at a reasonable price, and then just sitting back and letting compounding do the work. In 1986, at age 56, Warren Buffett officially became a billionaire on paper as Berkshire's stock price surged. The Oracle of Omaha was now one of the richest people in America, though not yet the global icon.
You know damn well some of them girls, oh, I want some of Warren Buffett. I want some of that Warren Buffett.
He would become. His transformation from scrappy stock picker to the head of a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate was complete. By changing the game, largely influenced by Charlie Munger, shifting away from just buying cheap companies to buying great companies, he snowballed his fortune and set the stage for the final chapter of his journey, where he would set investing records unlikely to be matched. Reaching $1 billion might seem like the finish line, but for Warren Buffett, it was really just a stepping stone. From the 1990s through to the 2020s though, Buffett faced a new challenge, deploying even larger sums of money while staying true to his value principles. Berkshire Hathaway had become so large that Buffett joked about needing to find elephants to buy. Small investments simply no longer move the needle. So Buffett started hunting larger game, sometimes buying entire large companies outright. This era was all about scaling up and fortifying that reputation as the world's greatest investor. One hallmark of Buffett's post-1990 approach was his patience and discipline in the face of market manias. In the late 1990s, as tech stocks soared in the dot-com bubble, Buffett largely sat it out. He didn't invest in flashy internet companies he didn't understand, which led...
Yes, I was correct. Yeah, because like at a certain point, I'm pretty sure, yeah, like Warren Buffett was not investing in like fucking like Amazon, eBay, Apple, like all these, you know, because like in his mindset, like this dude's from he was born in 1990, like, you know what I mean? Technology was not crazy like that. He's used to investing in physical companies, like, you know what I mean, not like companies where it's majority of it's like their profits are online.
To call him out of touch, but when the bubble burst, Berkshire emerged unscathed and Buffett's credibility only grew. He stuck to companies with clear earnings and strong moats. In fact, around this time, Buffett was investing in things like Coca-Cola, Gillette, American Express, Wells Fargo, the list goes on. By the mid-2000s, Buffett's cash pile was enormous, tens of billions, waiting for opportunities. And when the 2008 financial crisis hit, Buffett famously became a lender of last resort to blue chip companies. He negotiated sweetheart deals to inject cash into Goldman Sachs, General Electric, and others, getting preferred shares or high interest loans plus stock options. These deals were not only lucrative, they also cemented Buffett's image as a financial white knight during crises. However, the truly massive boost to Buffett's net worth in recent years came from an unlikely source. Technology, a sector he had long shunned. Enter Apple. Yes, the guy who avoided tech stocks for decades ended up making one of the biggest tech investments ever, and it paid off spectacularly.
That's what I was talking about. That's what I was talking about.
How did it happen? Around 2016, Buffett, or more specifically his investing deputies Todd Combs and Ted Weschler, with Buffett's blessing, began buying shares of Apple. Initially, many were surprised. Apple for Buffett, for Berkshire? But he came to view Apple not just as a tech company, but as a consumer products company with an extremely sticky customer base. In other words, huge brand moat. iPhone users were loyal, the ecosystem, App Store, iPad, Mac, iCloud, and other services meant recurring revenue, and Apple had mountains of cash. It fit Buffett's criteria as a dominant business with pricing power. So Berkshire kept buying. By 2018, Berkshire Hathaway owned about 5% of Apple, having invested around 30.
God damn. 5%. You know what, Buffett? Let's just be reasonable here. Buy half. Alright, buy half.
$30 billion. That stake quickly became worth far more. Apple's stock surged in the late 2010s and into the 2020s, and at the end of Q4 2023, the Apple position had swelled to occupy half of Berkshire's then $350 billion stock portfolio. At one point, Berkshire's Apple holdings reached a value of $160 billion. The investment gains from Apple alone added tens of billions to Berkshire's balance sheet and consequently to Buffett's personal net worth. It was the ultimate validation that his principles, focusing on brand, moat, and management, can apply even in the high-tech world if you choose carefully. In the last few years,
what I can say is that I do like Warren Buffett's way of strategizing, and because he stays disciplined to the companies that he believes are good investments, and that's what I do like about that. That's why, for majority of traders, I feel like invest in companies that you know, because if you know a company and you know what they do and how they make their money and you use them all the time, and you know multiple people use them all the time, that stock is more likely to be more successful than others.
Thanks to the surging value of Berkshire's investments, Apple included, and the compounding of his older bets, Warren Buffett's personal net worth crossed the historic $100 billion mark. In early 2021, Buffett joined the exclusive $100 billion club as Berkshire stock hit new highs. Today, Buffett's fortune is estimated at $165 billion, and the craziest part of his journey is that he never founded a giant tech company, he never took a huge salary, he never inherited a massive fortune. His billions are simply the product of investing acumen and patience. Pure and simple. The snowball rolling for almost 8 decades. So, what can we learn? Buffett grew his wealth by sticking to one simple strategy, buying great businesses at sensible prices and holding them forever. But it wasn't just about picking the right companies. Buffett has shown incredible discipline, avoiding speculative frenzies and letting cash build when the right opportunities weren't there. His frugality and focus on reinvesting profits helped Berkshire grow exponentially, turning every dollar retained decades ago into something much, much more. Now worth over $150 billion, Buffett's journey proves that consistent, principled investing combined with patience and discipline can and does create extraordinary wealth. And one last thing before I sign off, if you enjoyed this video and you'd be interested in a full 7-hour step-by-step course that teaches you exactly Warren Buffett's approach, talking through things like valuation methods he uses and moats.
W video. W Warren Buffett. That was a really good video. That was a really good video. Let's see. What's gonna be the next one? Let's see. But yeah, no, that was a really good video. Hold on. Let me oh no, checking my messages now. Hold on, I gotta adjust my air. I have to adjust my air. Bet. Okay, that's a little bit better. That's what I'm saying, it's getting a little bit toasty in here. Alright, bet. We're gonna switch. What is up, YouTube? What's up, Twitch? Today we're gonna be reacting to financial content. You know, the usual stuff. Day 2 of financial content. And let's hop into it. So, all right, bet. We're good. Today we're gonna be reacting to the nerdy millennials who created a 23.5 billion crypto casino.
And Bijan Tarani created Stake, an online casino that operates using cryptocurrency. They didn't know it at the time, but their new startup would eventually become the largest offshore crypto casino in the world with an estimated valuation of 23.5 billion, making them
God damn. And you know what's crazy too? What I love about this is that they stake. You'll see Stake in so many TikTok, Instagram content, or just like long form content videos for like dudes will make videos about them gambling on Stake.
two of the youngest self-made billionaires on the planet. From their first time meeting playing video games online, to the controversial legal loopholes they grew their business from, to their genius and shady marketing strategies and more, the story of this duo and their company is nothing short of fascinating. But how did they even get the idea to start a crypto casino to begin with? Well, it all started back in 2010, when they were just 15 and 17 years old playing RuneScape, but not just for the fun of it. They met on the
Oh my god, RuneScape. So many people met, like long-term lovers, friends, like just buddies met on RuneScape.
this game and quickly grew their friendship over their love of staking on it. Now, I don't know too much about RuneScape. I mean, I was too busy drooling over finding diamonds in Minecraft. But what's important for you to know is that staking in RuneScape is essentially when players bet on 1v1 fights in game. Ed and Bijan created their own sports book of sorts for these fights, taking real life money from people who wanted some action on these 1v1s. And it was actually profitable, but not for very long. They eventually were both banned from RuneScape because of their scheme, which left them without their favorite video game and their favorite hobby. However, even though they got hit with the chopping block, they still became great friends through all of this, and their love for gambling on video games eventually led to the creation of their first business together. In February of 2013, Ed and Bijan, at just 18 and 20 years old, launched an online casino called Prime Dice, and it was very profitable. Surprisingly, the casino itself wasn't actually a casino, but rather just one game. The concept was simple. Players deposit cryptocurrency into their account and try to guess where a randomly generated number lands between 1 and 100. And based on how risky their
Oh my god, I remember this. Oh my god, yeah, I remember seeing this. Oh my god. And then you like, don't get me wrong, like I've tried Stake. Stake's alright, it's good. I like me myself. I'm just not really interested in gambling. I don't really find. I mean, it's like fun every once in a while, maybe if you're out with your friends or whatever the case may be. But it's not like this super crazy thing. But I like the concept because it reminds me of investing. I like the concept of how like I could just go on my computer, open up my phone, and then make or lose money. I like that concept. I think that's a beautiful thing. But like, this is just so funny. this is just so funny how they like just guess a number within this certain margin, and you'll win.
That is, the multiplier for their bet amount will increase or decrease accordingly. Is this bottom of the barrel degeneracy? Absolutely. But people were all over it. The day it launched, Ed and Bijan saw over $1 million in bets placed.
Yo, what's up?
And over the next few years, those bets continued to grow exponentially. And besides one exploit someone found in the game where they stole $1 million worth of Bitcoin, the duo's first casino game was a smash hit monetarily speaking, and more importantly, proved to them that there was a massive audience for online crypto casino games, which is when they realized they needed to expand quickly. In 2016, with a good chunk of change to his name from Prime Dice, Bijan flew out of his New York apartment to where Ed was living in Melbourne, Australia, and never went back. Shortly after, Ed impulsively purchased.
Are you talking about me? I mean, if you're talking about me, I don't really think I'm that funny, but thank you if you are.
An office space where himself and Bijan worked on their new venture. EasyGo. In simple terms, EasyGo was going to be the company that would develop casino games for online casinos like Stake, which they started the following year. In typical startup fashion, Ed and Bijan moved as fast as they could to expand their team of developers to build out a ton of casino games for Stake, like roulette, slots, blackjack, you name it. Their office even resembled what a typical tech company looks like, with in-house baristas, chefs, big giveaways for employees, and even company boat cruises.
Damn.
Now, what I find most impressive about all of this was they were doing this when they were only 21 and 23 years old. I mean, shit, when I was that age, I was a bum in college, skipping class, and looking forward to my next bender. But anyway, these two young guys were getting really serious about launching a full-fledged crypto casino. I mean, they had the employees, a shit ton of money from Prime Dice, and the ambition to get Stake off the ground and roll. But there was just one massive problem in their plan. It was illegal to run an online casino in Australia. Since the inception of online gambling in the late 90s, they've always been against it, meaning casinos like Stake couldn't exist in the continent. So you're probably thinking, how in the hell were Ed and Bijan able to start not one, but two companies that solely focused on online gambling in a place where it had been banned for decades? Well, the answer lies in one remote island I guarantee you've never heard of. This is Curacao, a Dutch Caribbean island.
Hold on, what'd you say? I got you. I'll check out his channel later.
Rich with marine life, beaches, pastel-colored architecture, and most importantly, extremely liberal gambling laws. Since the inception of online gambling, Curacao was the go-to spot for online gambling startups because they gave out gambling license like candy. Plus, they had overseas countries and territory status, 0% taxation on foreign sourced income, 0% value-added tax, no sales tax or import duties, and no restrictions on the...
This island is literally like a free bag. You can basically do anything on this island. That's crazy.
Withdrawals of dividends. These amazing benefits led to literally thousands of gambling operators obtaining gambling license from the island country, including our two boys from Australia. They set up a company incorporated in Curacao called Medium Rare NV and listed their company's address as a real place on the island, albeit an old shack, and snagged a license for themselves. Okay, so they have a gambling license based on some random island now. How does that help them not get bent over by the Australian government? Well, according to the Interactive Gambling Act, an Australian law that regulates online gambling companies were only legal if the gambling provider...
Hold on, my audio disconnected.
There was nothing in the law that said it was illegal to operate a foreign licensed casino from Australia. Case in point, the duo...
Damn, they really found the loophole.
Was allowed to run Stake and EasyGo from Australia as long as they didn't serve people in Australia or advertise there. And because Stake's online casino license was registered in Curacao, they were able to avoid any governing bodies from taking them down. And all the people of Australia, or anywhere really, had to do on their part to play on Stake was to download a VPN, set up their Stake account with an address not in Australia, and boom, they could punt away. And speaking of VPNs, if you're going to be chronically online these days and hopefully not gambling, you need to be using one. And the one I many Duo's business to get as many users on Stake as possible. Now, that's obviously the goal for any business ever created. I mean, you want to get customers in the door. But what was different about the Duo's business was how closely tied it was to two industries, crypto and gambling. And luckily for them, the explosive rise of one of those industries helped them out a ton. Pre-2016, not many people knew about cryptocurrency.
That's so true. That's so true. Like, I want to say not until like Bitcoin blew up, you could ask like any average person, hey, yo, you know about crypto? Hell no. Hell no.
And if they did know about it, they were most likely selling drugs on the dark web. This is evident by the price of Bitcoin through the years. From its inception in 2009 to the end of 2016, Bitcoin had gone from worth nothing to around $1,000. Now, I know all the finance bros are going to be up my ass here because in reality, the percentage growth on that is absolutely insane. But what's most important here is the rise of crypto becoming a household name. In 2017, when the price of Bitcoin exploded to over $17,000, everyone was talking about it. it. This mainstream chatter slowly shook off the reputation of Bitcoin being this shady currency and established itself as an actual legit thing that had value behind it. And because of that notion, people across the world started to adopt crypto and create wallets to buy it, which for Ed and Bijan was huge. Now that hundreds of thousands of people were creating wallets and buying crypto, stake had become more accessible to way more people because in order to use stake, well, you needed to have a crypto wallet. The rise in their total addressable market led to stake going from being a pretty niche website in the crypto community to a decently well-known platform reaching tens of millions of dollars in revenue by 2019. But even though more people were into crypto and knew about the site, Ed and Bijan weren't satisfied. After all, they wanted to accomplish a much bigger goal of making stake a worldwide brand. And luckily for them, a worldwide pandemic hit just at the right time. Now, of course, I don't mean that in the way of people getting sick, but for the fact that everyone was forced inside. Millions of people crammed in their homes and apartments became bored as hell. Some people picked up new hobbies. Some people, like myself, opted to drink six-packs and run squads with the fellas. But what a hell of a lot of people did was watch their favorite streamers on Twitch. The amount of both streamers.
Oh my god. The amount of streamers that were just streaming gambling. Hey yo, today guys, we're gonna be gambling like a few $1,000s on blackjack. Alright, so hopefully I get some good hands. They were getting good hands. And trust me, those sponsors, they were paying out.
And viewers of Twitch nearly doubled during the pandemic, with 26.5 million users visiting the site daily, and the duo, being the young, savvy businessmen they were, saw a great opportunity. What if they paid streamers with large audiences to use their site in front of their millions of fans? And so, Ed and Bijan set off on their plan to reach a global audience that had nothing better to do than to stare at their screens.
Yep.
And it worked to a T. Massive influencers, including Trainwrecks TV, XQC, Aiden Ross, the Nelk Boys, and many more were reportedly given at least $1 million a month to spin slots, play blackjack, and yell at dealers live in front of their massive fan bases.
Damn.
The list of stars recruited by the duo went beyond typical social media people also, most notably Drake, who was given an estimated $20 million a month to gamble live and had multiple news outlets talking about it. At one point, 64 of the top 1,000 streamers streamed only slots, and all of these guys played with massive bankrolls and exclusively played high stakes, which to their fans of mostly teenage boys was awesome. As a result of these new fans, Ed and Bijan saw growth they couldn't.
Yep. And then now we got new gambling addicts. I remember seeing the stream and I'm like, bro, why?
Imagine happened.
Oh
Between
God.
2020 and 2022, stakes revenue went from around 100 million to roughly 2 billion. They were reportedly handling betting volumes in the tens of billions of dollars, and the growth of their company made a 26-year-old Ed and a 28-year-old Bijan both billionaires. But their genius marketing play didn't come without some pretty major controversy. There were a plethora of ethical concerns from these streamers partnering with Stake, with each one putting Ed and Bijan in a hotter seat. For example, many streamers didn't disclose that they were playing with Stake's money, which not only made them lose the trust of some of their fans, but raised
Yeah. They were using like the money that Stake gave them.
concerns about the massive wins they were showing their fans because, well, in a sense, it wasn't really their money they were risking. But the real backlash came from the fact that it was mostly young, impressionable teens watching this gambling content. At the base level, just over a fifth of Twitch users are between 13 and 17 years old. But that doesn't account for the audience ages that these streamers' viewers actually were. It's safe to assume that a bigger percentage of them were in that age range, and promoting a dangerous vice that could ruin lives to such a young demographic for personal gain wasn't really the best look ethically speaking. Plus, many of these influencers often downplayed the risk of gambling and only showed it in an entertaining light, especially when they won big. Couple that with the fact that Twitch had no age verification requirements for viewing gambling live streams, and it's easy to see why these partnerships were a recipe for disaster. That recipe was the main reason why other big platforms like YouTube and Facebook had already banned streaming online gambling sites to begin with. so inevitably, Twitch was pressured from all angles to follow suit, and that pressure eventually made them buckle. In September 2022, Twitch announced that it was banning streamers from streaming stake and similar crypto casinos, citing concerns about it being predatory behavior. This was a massive roadblock for Ed and Bijan's plan. They had just lost access to a huge part of their marketing strategy.
Damn, all that gone. But even though it was a small effect, it already had made its mark. It already made its mark
to increase their business more than 20-fold. And even though they tried to combat the Twitch ban by launching their own streaming service Kick, they still needed to find a surefire way to stay relevant in front of millions of people. And the way they did that was a little more simple than you might think. Even though their main source of marketing essentially vanished into thin air.
Yeah, but like what's so also concerning is that Kick, at least for me, Kick just has this perceived image that like whoever's on it, they like, you know, like they aren't doing the best, or they aren't doing the safest things that young people should be watching. Or like, what I'm trying to say is that Kick just has this bad image because of like the streamers that stream on it. Like they, like some of the shit that they do, it's like if you did that shit on Twitch, you would get banned instantly for forever or for a long time.
Bijan still had a massive war chest to use to their advantage, and the way they used it was through paid partnerships. They sponsored essentially anything that had a pulse and was willing to rep them, including a laundry list of soccer organizations, the UFC, Major League, and USA Cricket, among other organizations. These partnerships extended beyond teams and sports leagues into athletes as well, evident by their collabs with UFC fighters like Max Holloway, Alex Pereira, Israel Adesanya, F1 driver Pietro Fittipaldi, Argentinian soccer legend Sergio Aguero, and even porn actress Bonnie Blue. But their biggest...
And then like that's the problem. Porn actress. No, but like yeah, that's the problem. And when you're a company like that, all these people that you're, you know, some of these like, you know, some of these people could actually be good people, and you know they're not bad, you know, but like as a result, also there are those people that when you make that, like those partnerships, those people that you're sponsoring are like a perceived image of your company. And then like that's why a lot of streamers, like at least major crazy ones, just don't stream on Kick. No.
And most hilarious partnerships were through social media. If you've been on any social network recently, I'm sure you've seen posts with this stake watermark on it. This idea came from the minds of Ed and Bijan, who decided to pay content aggregators, who are basically accounts who repost viral images and videos, to slap their logo on these posts. It wasn't just a handful of these accounts either. There were literally so many of these watermarked videos and images being posted that it became a meme in itself, which honestly was best case scenario for the duo. And despite once again their marketing play receiving backlash, mainly for violating some social platforms' rules on gambling advertisements, Ed and Bijan had hit a record amount of revenue thanks to their sponsorships. $4.7 billion in 2024.
Damn.
All in all, Stake was now worth around $23.5 billion as a company, and the duo had fulfilled their goal of growing Stake into a worldwide brand. While doing so, they had become two of the youngest self-made billionaires in the world, and all that was left to do was to enjoy their newfound riches. Ed went on to buy about as many properties as I have phone chargers, including a beautiful $38.5 million mansion in Melbourne, a record-breaking $80 million property near that mansion.
So Stake, main income, right? And then whatever he made from Stake, just buy a bunch of properties in real estate. From there, he could rent those out, have his main house. From there, have someone manage his money, like an agency, investing crypto and investing into crypto. And all he has to do is just have people run the site, right? And then like just add like things like new events, new updates and stuff like that. Make the website look all fancy with all the colors and making it pop and all of that, and there you go.
more homes for a combined $76 million in multiple top-floor penthouses. He also drives sexy cars, helped his parents purchase a Jamaica Blue Cafe franchise, and enjoys front-row seats at NBA games and tennis tournaments. Bijan also let loose a little bit with a small purchase of $47 million for a Manhattan townhouse that was previously owned by David Rockefeller. Yes, that Rockefeller. And as for their baby, Stake is now considered the 7th largest gambling group and largest online crypto casino in the world, available in over 100 countries.
7th? Who's the first? If they were the 7th, then who is the first?
And continuing to do billions in revenue. Now, something else you should continue to do is watch this video that
Oh, that was a good video. That was a W video. Bet. There we go. I'm like, yo, like, who's the first? That's what I'm confused about. Who's the number one gambling goddamn? Let's see what video we're gonna watch next. Bet. Low-key. This video is probably gonna be my last video for today. Alright, bet. I'm gonna switch over. Alright, bet. What it do, YouTube, Twitch? How we doing today? You know what I'm saying? How we doing today? Today we're gonna be reacting to financial content. You know what I'm saying? Make sure to like and enjoy the video. Subscribe. You know what I'm saying? Alright, bet. Oh no, don't tell me my capture card disconnected. Oh shit. Oh my god, my capture card disconnected. Oh. Hold on. That's so weird. And like it does that too. Alright, it should be fixed now. Damn. I always hate when that happens too. Alright, so today we're going to be watching how airlines quietly become banks. Let's hop into it.
Last year, for the first time ever, the public got a glimpse into the financials of airline frequent flyer programs. What they saw was truly astonishing. During the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, airlines were hemorrhaging money, and so, naturally, they looked for a loan. United, for example, sought $5 billion to tide the company over until travel came back, but like with any loan, they needed to put up collateral. They needed to offer something to the bank that it would acquire if the company failed to pay the loan back. The problem was, United wasn't worth much at the time since, of course, it was hemorrhaging money, meaning it would have had to offer a huge chunk of itself as collateral.
W Airlines, I always me myself, I always think because I want to become a pilot, I want to fly and then eventually go commercial. I was thinking about, what if I started my own airline? But then I realized how much of a pain of the ass it would be to genuinely start your own airline.
Rather, they decided to offer one of their subsidiaries as collateral, Mileage Plus Holdings LLC, essentially their loyalty program. Of course, given that United is a publicly traded company, they have various financial reporting requirements, including the obligation to file a Form 8K with the Securities and Exchange Commission whenever a major business event takes place, such as taking out a multi-billion-dollar loan. Of thousands, one line on this document stood out. Quote, multiplying Mileage Plus Holdings' 2019 EBITDA by a factor of 12 equates to a Mileage Plus valuation of approximately $21.9 billion. $21.9 billion. That's the value of United's loyalty program, according to the company and this loan.
Jesus, 21.9 billion.
Similar financial disclosures from
I don't know. Well, that was then, but now it's got to be way more. Way more.
Delta and American Airlines pegged the value of their loyalty programs at $26 billion and $19.5 to $31.5 billion, respectively. So, notwithstanding their size, why did these numbers turn heads? Well, because of these. The airlines' market caps. These figures equal the total value of all the shares in each company. It's essentially a real-time indicator of what Wall Street considers a company worth, given the ebbs and flows in stock prices. At the time, United's was $10 billion, Delta's $20 billion, and American's $6 billion. So the value of each airline is less than the value of their loyalty programs, which is interesting in and of itself, but the airlines own their loyalty programs. Therefore, at least according to Wall Street, airlines themselves are worthless. In fact, they're more than worthless. They have negative value, they're loss leaders, and the only thing imparting each airline with value is its loyalty program. This is a less absurd proposition than it might initially seem. In 2018, well before the COVID-induced travel downturn, American Airlines earned about 14.42 cents in passenger revenue per seat per mile flown. But simultaneously, it cost them 14.85 cents to operate a given seat 1 mile. So the airline actually lost about half a cent for each mile it flew each seat.
How? I mean, well, I get it, but like, how could airlines be losing like money?
The company, however, earned $1.9 billion in pre-tax profits thanks exclusively to their $4.2 billion in frequent flyer program revenue. In the US, airports are plastered with ads for co-branded airline credit cards touting free checked bags and other benefits. They're stuffed with lounges accessible to frequent flyers, but not even first-class passengers. They're littered with priority lanes reserved for getting elite status members through security and onto planes more quickly. Airlines even have their flight attendants acting as salespeople, reciting credit card pitches at 30,000 feet in exchange for the chance of a commission on a passenger's sign-up. The reason why the entire flying process in the US and increasingly other countries seems like a carefully manicured experience nudging you to sign up for credit cards and frequent flyer programs is because of these numbers. Airlines are hardly transportation companies anymore. Over the past 40 years, they've crafted a system so effective, so unbelievably advantageous to their own interests, that they are now willing to lose money flying to prop up their frequent flyer businesses. Businesses whose core proposition
That's foul. I don't like that, cause literally they are kind of like banks, cause like you sign up for the program and like you're like, oh, while I wait for the plane to get ready, I'm gonna go chill in my lounge, and it's like, damn. So that's really how the company makes money, but like the flying itself, like per flight, how much money they make per flight, they're not making anything.
Is giving away free flights. Today, airlines are basically banks. This all snowballed from a concept no different than the loyalty punch card at your favorite sandwich place. You fly a certain number of times, you get a free flight. While airlines had already started tracking the activity of individual flyers, formal frequent flyer programs became technically and legally possible with the deregulation of the American airline industry in 1978. The first program was set up by a small airline called Texas International, which later merged with Continental, but the first major long-haul airline to do so was American Airlines in 1981. What the airline observed was not surprising. American Advantage members were more likely to choose to fly with American so that they could accumulate enough miles to get a free flight. In fact, they were even willing to pay slightly more, some 5% extra for an American flight rather than an equivalent United flight, for example, since that United flight wouldn't get them any closer to a free American flight. It's all sunk cost fallacy.
So I see. So it's like they're feeding into their desire, because obviously, you know, people want to travel, people want to go places, and then like they're feeding into that mindset of, oh, if I since, you know, since I'm gonna fly here anyway to see my mom, I might as well just take the American Advantage flight, because then it'll just go on my passport or to my badge, and then I'm one step closer or 2 flights away from getting my free flight. And it's like, yo. And it's like, yo.
If someone's earned 10,000 Advantage miles, they'd prefer to fly American and get to the 12,500th for a free flight rather than starting from 0 with United, even if they'd earn the same number of miles. Overall, the program certainly did have an expense for the airline, but it quickly became clear that the expense was far eclipsed by the additional revenue it brought in. But more significant than the program's launch was its first evolution beyond the sandwich shop punch card. In 1982, American partnered with Hertz and Holland America to allow
That's where the renting and the hotels and all that stuff came in.
its members to earn points when renting cars or booking cruises, but the concept of earning points with partners was not what was revolutionary about this. Rather, it was the behind-the-scenes mechanics that made that.
Oh, wait a moment. Can we all appreciate just how nice that goddamn plane looks? I like the nice silver look on it, cause like you'll probably never see a plane like that, like ever, like on a daily basis. That is just a nice, beautiful plane.
Possible. American wasn't going to give miles away for free when people spent money at another company, because the redemption of miles did have a cost for the airline. Beyond small variable costs like food, fuel, insurance, and more, there is potentially significant opportunity cost from offering a seat in exchange for points if that seat might have otherwise been booked by a paying passenger. Therefore, American needed to be compensated for the miles it gave to Hertz and Holland America, and so, for the first time, it put a real monetary price on its imaginary points. While the actual numbers are closely guarded secrets, American Airlines would, for example, sell 1 point to Hertz for 1 cent, which Hertz would then reward to its customers in order to incentivize them to rent at Hertz rather than another rental car company that did not reward airline points. Now, if Hertz paid that 1 cent per mile, which is within the range of educated estimates, and if a customer redeemed 25,000 miles for a domestic flight, which was a typical redemption rate at the time, that means American would have earned $250 for a domestic flight. Considering the typical variable cost for a domestic flight was about $15, American Airlines quickly recognized just how incredible the profit opportunities could be. They started to realize them in 1987 when American teamed up with Citibank to offer a co-branded credit card. That way, for every dollar spent on the card, the member would earn a point. This dramatically increased the volume at which American and other airlines.
And then also, that was a good benefit for also banks, because that's where, like, this is where it was all born. The whole, if I use my travel card and then I use it with this specific airline, or if I use my card for so much, then I can use it with Amex. Then I can schedule my flight through Amex, and then Amex gets the money, like, you know, gets their fees and all that stuff. The airline gets their fees and all that stuff. And it's just a cycle that just repeats, and repeats.
Points to external partners, and shifted these programs from ways to incentivize more spending on airfare to profit centers in and of themselves. Today, part of the strength of these multi-billion-dollar programs is based on the fact that, despite their strength, government and businesses essentially treat them the same as that sandwich shop punch card. To start with, almost universally, points are not taxed. Despite the fact that one can accumulate points like income and redeem them for something worth money, governments consider it.
And then you can also, my bad, I'm checking my headphones. You can also exchange those points for like money also, or like credit statement, or like credits.
A rebate or cash back on your purchase, because to get that reward, you had to spend money, and you can't exchange that reward for money, at least officially. Just as you don't pay tax on the amount saved when bananas are 25% off at the grocery store, you don't pay tax when the airline awards you points you can use for free flights. In this case, the savings just happen further away from purchase. However, unlike with sandwich punch cards or banana discounts, in this case, the people paying for the flights are often different than those receiving the reward. Almost all of airlines' most frequent flyers travel on business, in which case their employers pay the airfare. Despite that, frequent flyer programs award points to the individual flying, not the individual paying. In addition,
Oh, I didn't know that. No, actually, yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Because your name's on it, and then like you can like pull it up on your account, so that does make sense.
if the employee books the trip on their company card, they also get the credit card points from that spend. The companies paying don't really have a problem with this because it essentially acts as a free, tax-free benefit for their employees. Business travel isn't anywhere as glamorous as it used to be, so companies are happy to allow their employees to earn points they can eventually use for leisure travel in exchange for them getting out on the road and making money. Of course, this potentially creates a scenario in which the individual is incentivized to fly or pay more on the company's dime, but most don't seem too worried about this. So, both tax law and company policy, or the lack of it, works in favor of the airline. The way in which frequent flyer programs were set up wasn't perfect though. There was
God damn. You know for a fact that runway has been used so many goddamn times. You can see the tire tracks on the pavement. God damn.
Potential for exploits. Namely, as airline revenue management systems became more complex, price and travel distance became less and less correlated. Nowadays, it's rather intuitive to us that the 400-mile flight from DC to Nantucket, a high-end vacation destination, is going to cost more than the 400-mile flight from DC to Boston. In fact, American's lowest price for that Nantucket flight is $98, while its flights to Boston start at just $49. So,
that's because... Isn't it a thing where... Because, like, I'm pretty sure it's the same thing with Hawaii. Because like I forgot what it was, because like certain like flying to certain places costs more because it's fuel and all that stuff to go to that particular place, especially if it's not like a place that everybody goes there every day, like let's say to LA from New York or whatever the case may be, because there are certain flights where it's like, oh yeah, it's common for people to go there. It's common for people to leave there also. So if it's not common in those places, then it's gonna cost more. And on top of that, if it's known as a vacation or destination that's mainly known for vacation, then it's gonna cost more because they know that you want to go there. Just like flights to Japan, Dubai, Singapore, Sweden, all these popular known places. But if you're in those countries and if you're flying somewhere locally, it's cheap as hell. It's just that wherever you are, and if people leave or go there, it really all depends.
Double the price for the same distance, simply because the more wealthy travelers headed to Nantucket are more likely to pay for the convenience of a non-stop flight. Meanwhile, based on the traditional 1 mile, 1 point system, the member would still gain just 400 points for each of those flights despite the difference in price. Therefore, if someone found an itinerary that was low cost but long distance, their mileage earning could be so high that the miles earned would be worth more than the cost of the flight. For example, if one found an itinerary from Los Angeles to San Francisco via Chicago, the traveler would earn 10 times the points than if they flew direct, and more complex revenue management systems would likely price that long, circuitous connecting itinerary lower than the non-stop one since it was less convenient. All around, this was bad for airlines. It was incentivizing people to take longer, multi-stop itineraries, which cost the airline more to operate, and it forced them to give out more miles, which cost the airline more in redemptions. In short, they were incentivizing against their own interests. This was a rare element of the system that did not work in their favor. So, they changed it. Over the past decade, nearly every major program has pivoted to a system where passengers are rewarded points based on how many dollars they spend rather than how many miles they fly. Among the big 3 American airlines, it's simple. You spend $1, you earn 5 points. This shifted the system from...
Yes, this is where the whole concept of how much does $1 here at this airline equate in points. So sir, that's gonna be $1 for 5 points. Okay, so if I gain such and such amount of points, then I can purchase a free flight from such and such location, correct? Or get a discount.
where the airline wins overall, but might lose out from time to time, to one where the airline quite literally cannot lose. At least on the earnings side, revenue-based systems cannot be exploited. But airlines quickly figured out how to restructure the redemption side in their favor too. It used to be that any economy class flight within the continental US cost 12,500 points on United, regardless of whether it was a Tuesday in February or the Sunday after Thanksgiving. That's despite the fact that cash rates were undoubtedly far higher on the Sunday after Thanksgiving, one of the highest demand travel days of the year. While availability of point seats differed, that meant that someone who did manage to score a Thanksgiving Sunday booking on points got a deal. The cost for the airline to offer that seat on points was greater than what the airline earned. That's since the opportunity cost on those highest demand days is huge, as almost every available seat is likely to be sold for cash. Even if it all worked out in the end in the airline's favor, they didn't like these losses, so they switched the way redemptions worked too. Now, nearly every major airline has dynamic award charts. Just like how cash fares rise for high demand days, so too do point redemption rates. For example, in October 2022, United is charging $114 for non-stop Newark to Denver flights on low demand Tuesdays and $254 on high demand Sundays. Meanwhile, mile redemption rates rise from 8,300 to 22,200 points. That roughly 2.5 times rise for each means that mile rates are now correlated to cash rates, and so arbitrage between what airlines charge in miles and cash is no longer possible. So they've now closed loopholes on both ends of the equation. You can't exploit the accumulation of miles or the redemption of miles. Essentially, the only factor placing a check on airlines' power is the exchange rate. Considering how much of their profit comes from selling points to credit card companies and other marketing partners, airlines do care tremendously about how much those companies are willing to pay for points, and how much those companies are willing to pay is loosely based on what the general public believes those points are worth. Various travel and finance websites publish their estimated point valuations to help inform consumers of whether they're getting a good deal with a given redemption, and there is a good amount of variability. Aggregating 5 estimates, the average value of 1 point is 1.218 cents for Delta Sky Miles, 1.226 for United Mileage Plus, and 1.416 for American Advantage. What this means is that, if all else were to be equal, consumers would be more incentivized to fly American flights, use American co-branded credit cards, transfer points to American, and more, which means credit card companies and other marketing partners are likely to run out of American points sooner and need to buy more. That being said, power is still in the hands of airlines, as there are only 3 major long-haul airlines in the US, but far more credit card companies. United is partnered with Chase, American with Citibank, and Delta with American Express, but if any of these credit card companies refused to agree to a higher mile purchase price when contract negotiations came around, the airline could dump them and switch to Bank of America, Barclays.
That's so crazy, but it is true. They could just be like, oh, you don't want to make a deal with us? Okay, next bank.
Capital One, Discover, each of which would be delighted to score a major airline partner. So why is it that the value of these frequent flyer programs has eclipsed the value of the airlines themselves? Well, it's because what's happening here is that airlines are essentially acting as the central banks for their own virtual currencies. They're acting like the US Treasury or the Bank of England or the European Central Bank in that they control the supply of their currency, but airlines' power actually goes far beyond that of these central banks. Not only do they control the flow of the currency, but they also control the availability of goods to spend it on. Then, on top of that, it's as if these all-powerful central banks are operating as private for-profit companies that can just create more of their currency for the purposes of selling it at any given time. Airlines have nearly complete, unchecked control over a currency with which they are the only entity that can convert it to cash. That is the key to their power. Frequent flyer programs are genius financial instruments because it's nearly impossible for airlines to lose. Alright, so think about all the times in your day when you're not using your ears. Maybe while you get ready for the day, make dinner, do laundry, or drive to work. All that time, you could be entertaining and—
Alright, that was a good video. That was a W video. Make sure to like and subscribe. And let's hop into the next one. No. let's see. What do we got here? What do we got? See, I'm trying to see something simple. Nah, how long? Yeah, I'm lucky gonna call it for today. We are gonna end the stream for today. You know, that was a good stream. Thank you for everybody who ever tuned in, who was watching. Much appreciated. And make sure to like and subscribe, and for those YouTube turtles, same. And we stream like it's either Friday or Saturday every week. We react to financial content. I'm considering streaming some games, but right now I'm focused on my main channel, my main financial content, just trying to get financial videos out, and make financial videos. So I hope you guys have a good day, and peace.